Chapter 185. Xiaoyi patted him on the shoulder. Xiao Bao, we can't dampen Daddy's enthusiasm, even though romance also depends on talent. Xiaodong couldn't help but laugh. Bailey Han's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. What was going on now? Was he being despised by his wife and children? Clearly, the romance novels told him that setting off fireworks was a very romantic thing. The two little rascals were deliberately causing trouble. Bailey Han was very dissatisfied and was very annoyed. Xiao Bao stuck out his tongue. Xiao Yi, Daddy is angry. Let's hurry back to the car and give them some private space. Xiao Yi nodded seriously. You're right. We can't be third wheels. Bailey Han's whole body was emitting cold air as he bared his teeth at the two little rascals. You've been third wheels for a long time, okay? The two little rascals covered their mouths and snickered as they ran back to the car. Xiaodong held his hand and laughed softly. Don't be angry. The fireworks are very beautiful. Bailey Han's bellyful of anger instantly dissipated without a trace. He hugged her waist. After the proposal, I forgot something. What is it? He said seriously. Kiss you. Actually, he was embarrassed in front of the child, aunt, and uncle. She blushed. Fortunately, it was nighttime and he couldn't see clearly. She tilted her head slightly and closed her eyes. She used her actions to express her wishes. His eyes were full of smiles as he lowered his head and finally kissed her lips as he wished. Unfortunately, he didn't taste it for long because the three little rascals were waiting for them in the car. When they returned to the car, Xiao Guai was already awake and giggling while hugging the blanket. Xia Dong carried her daughter and pinched her soft cheeks. Gigai, what are you giggling about? Xiao Guai pointed at the beach outside the window. The fireworks are so beautiful. Our daughter knows what's good for her. Bailey Han patted Xiao Guai's little head. Honey, buckle up. I'm going to drive. When they returned home, it was already past 10 o'clock. Xia Dong took her daughter to the master bathroom to take a bath, while Bailey Han took his two sons to the bathroom outside. The three of them soaked in the bathtub together as Bailey Han rubbed the backs of the little rascals. The scene was very heartwarming. Xiaoyi felt that it was very novel. In the villa, she had never taken a bath with Daddy before. After Xiaodong and Xiao Guai finished showering, Xiaodong hugged her daughter and sat on the sofa, using a soft towel to wipe her hair. Every time she wiped her daughter's hair, she would feel a sharp pain in her heart when she saw tufts of hair falling off. Tonight was no exception. Although her movements were extremely gentle, a lot of hair still fell off. Suddenly, she heard Bailey Han's voice from the bathroom. Wifey, help us get our clothes. Oh, okay. Wait a minute. Xia Dong put down the towel and carried her daughter to the side. She went back to the room to find Xiao Bao and Xiao Yi's clothes. Then, she took Bailey Han's clothes from the closet and carried them to the bathroom door. She gently knocked on the door. I'll put the clothes on the chair by the door. Just as she was about to pull a chair over, the bathroom door suddenly opened. Bailey Han was bare-chested with a towel wrapped around his waist as he stood in front of her just like that. She averted her gaze, not daring to look at him, and handed the clothes over. When the three of them were dressed and came out of the bathroom, Xiao Guai had already fallen asleep in her arms. Her body seemed to be getting worse. She was easily tired and sleepy. Xia Dong was very worried. She put her daughter back on the bed and carefully covered her with the blanket. When she got up, she saw Bailey Han standing at the door. His hair was still a little wet and his expression was a little serious. When she came closer, he said in a low voice, Gigai's body is very weak. It's better to send her to the hospital as soon as possible. Xia Dong rubbed her eyebrows. I plan to send Xiao Guai to the hospital after Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao start school. Then, I'll have more time to take care of her. There were still a few days before the kindergarten started school. Bailey Han put his arm around her shoulder and returned to her room. You don't have to work so hard. Don't forget that you still have me. Honey, you have to learn to rely on your man. He stroked her long hair. The fragrance of her hair softened his heart. He said gently, in the future, leave the matter of picking up the children to me. Xiao Guai will be taken care of by a professional nurse. You can rest at ease and take care of the baby. When the baby is born, Xiao Guai will also get better. She let him hold her in his arms and murmured, So there was such a person. Even if you didn't do anything, you would feel like you had the whole world in your arms. The emptiness in his heart was filled by her. The room was very quiet. Only the ticking of the clock could be heard. Xia Dong gradually felt sleepy. She pushed him in a daze. "Han, I'm sleepy. Go to sleep if you're sleepy." He carried her up and placed her on the bed. He lowered his head and kissed her forehead. "Good night, honey." She was really too tired. She didn't even open her eyes. She murmured, He pinched her delicate little nose. His lips curved into a doting smile as he said softly, "Little lazy kitten." Xia Dong had already laid out the foldable bed in the living room for him. It wasn't very comfortable for him to sleep on it with his height of more than 1.8 meters. It was a little restrictive. Her sweet smiling face kept flashing in his mind. He couldn't stop thinking about the comfortable feeling of her lying in his arms. Moreover, she was less than 10 meters away from him. After tossing and turning for more than an hour, the hour hand pointed to 12. He still didn't feel sleepy. In the end, he couldn't control himself and sneaked into her room quietly. He quietly lifted the blanket and laid down beside her. He gently pulled her into his embrace, and with her soft and fragrant body pressed against his chest, his entire body felt comfortable, and he began to feel sleepy. Early the next morning, Bailey Han woke up. Xia Dong was lying in the crook of his arm. She was still fast asleep. Her hands were tightly clutching the clothes on his chest. The right shoulder strap of her spaghetti strap had slipped below her shoulder. Because she was curled up on her side, half of her soft peaks were exposed. There was also a deep cleavage that was faintly discernible. He suddenly felt a little thirsty. All the blood in his body rushed to his abdomen. He immediately had a reaction. It was a normal physiological reaction that men would have in the morning. His pants were a little tight. Sadly, Xia Dong woke up at this moment. She stared blankly at the handsome face in front of her. She was still a little confused. "Han, why are you on my bed?" Bailey Han quietly retreated a little. He lied without blushing or skipping a beat. "Honey, you fell asleep last night. I carried you to the bed and then you held my hand and wouldn't let go." Xia Dong's eyes widened. She actually did such a thing. He coughed and unkindly pushed all the blame to her. "I admit that I didn't have enough self-control. I couldn't resist your seduction and climbed into your bed. But don't worry, we were just sleeping. We didn't do anything else." Xia Dong didn't doubt his words at all. She really thought that she had raped him. She scratched her messy hair in annoyance. "Forget about what happened last night. I won't do it again." This action of hers exposed even more of her chest. His burning gaze fell on her chest. She followed his gaze and immediately pulled the blanket over her chest. She said exasperatedly, You should leave now." He wanted to leave too, but now, his pants were even tighter. He deliberately dawdled to stall for time. He tried hard to suppress the heat in his heart, but that part of him was still sticking up disobediently. "Hurry up and get off the bed. I want to change." Xia Dong was already embarrassed. Seeing him dawdling, she angrily pulled the blanket over him. Suddenly, his erect part of him barged into her line of sight. She saw that his pants were pushed up high. Her face was so red that it was about to bleed. She hugged the blanket and curled into a ball. She said softly, I'll lend you the bathroom." Bailey Han's face darkened. He was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Seeing her shy look, he couldn't help but tease her. He deliberately moved closer and blew hot air into her ear. "You were the one who did that to me last night. Shouldn't you be responsible for taking it down?" Xia Dong was embarrassed by his words. She felt even more that it was her fault. She stuttered. Then I'll use my hands to help you." Bailey Han's face darkened. "Where did you learn those things?" She whimpered, "From the calcium tablets in Japan." She had crazily taken remedial lessons in order to seduce him back then. "You're not allowed to look at those things in the future." Bailey Han's face reddened. He coughed and bit her ear. "If you want to look at them, I have to look at them with you." Bailey Han was satisfied to see her trembling all over. His wife was so cute when she was shy. She turned her face away, which was as red as an apple. She looked at him in disdain. "Pervert!" He happily pulled her cheek and kissed her lips. Then I'll only be lustful to you. Go away. Xiaodong covered her head with the blanket. She really wanted to find a hole to hide in. Bailey Han pulled the blanket over her head, open a crack to prevent her from suffocating herself. He laughed softly. I'll go out now. He was worried that if he didn't go out now, she would suffocate under the blanket. What a shy little thing. He couldn't be lazy anymore today. He had a meeting with the board of directors in the afternoon. After breakfast, he changed his clothes and walked out of the room with his briefcase. He was wearing a black suit and a white shirt. The simple style made him look elegant and handsome. He had a high nose bridge and a slightly hooked nose, adding a bit of coldness to his handsome face. His eyes were deep and wise. The morning sun shone through the window and shone on his body, softening the cold lines on his face. He looked at her with a smile on his lips. Wifey, help me with my tie. Add Xinwu 799. Chapter 186. Xiaodong smiled and took the tie from his hands. He leaned over and their faces were so close that they could almost feel each other's breath. Her slender and beautiful fingers deftly flipped over his chest. Bailey Han looked at the serious woman in front of him, and the smile in his eyes became even brighter. He quickly lowered his head and kissed her cheek. She lowered her head guiltily. The children were still in the living room. Honey, I'm leaving. Bailey Han stroked her hair and looked up to wave to the three little guys in the living room. Babies. Daddy is going to the company. Gigai, stay at home and listen to Mommy. Got it, Daddy. If you don't leave now, you'll be late. Xiao Bao smiled mischievously. Aya, you're stupid. Daddy is the big boss. No one will ever say that he's late. Xiao Yi curled her lips. Wow, Daddy is so awesome. Xiao Guai's eyes sparkled. Bailey Han laughed. It felt so good to have a wife and children. After he went to the company, Xiaodong took care of the children at home. As school was about to start, she urged Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao to take out the summer homework left by the teacher. She wanted to check on the completion of the homework. Xiao Yi's homework was very neat and tidy. Her handwriting was also very beautiful. She did all the math correctly and didn't make any mistakes in her foreign language. The language teacher only left a few weekly notes and an essay. The essay's title was My Mother and Me. Xiaodong wanted to see the essay's content, but Xiao Yi snatched the homework from her hands with an unnatural blush on his little face. He raised his chin. You can't invade my privacy. Xiaodong raised her eyebrows in amusement. I just want to see if your essay is good. Humph, you can't see it anyway. He used so many words of praise in his essay. If she saw it, it would be embarrassing. She stroked his head. All right, I won't see it. What a pity. Although Xiao Yi didn't reject her, he refused to call her mommy. She really wanted to know how he would talk about her in his essay. Xiao Bao's homework was a mess because he hadn't done it yet. Xiaodong rubbed her forehead. Xiao Bao, school starts the day after tomorrow and you haven't done your homework yet. What's the meaning of this? Xiao Bao shrugged indifferently and glanced at Xiao Yi's neat pile of homework. He said disdainfully, Those things are nothing to me. I can finish them in the afternoon. All right, you can start now. I'll check your progress tonight. If you can't finish it, I'll make fun of you for a month in the name of boasting. Xiaodong held his young shoulders and pressed him in front of the desk. Don't worry, I'll start now. Don't disturb me here, okay? The little guy had a terrible temper. In the afternoon, the driver, Uncle Wang, came with 2 large suitcases. One was filled with Xiao Yi's clothes and the other was, of course, Bailey Han's. Xiaodong took out their clothes from the suitcases and arranged them in the closet. It was already past 4 o'clock. She washed her hands and went to the kitchen to make some simple and delicious purple potato balls. She called the 3 children to the dining room to eat. Everyone was given a small portion to prevent them from being too full and refusing to eat dinner. After tea time, Xiao Bao returned to his room to continue working on his summer homework. Xiao Yi sat on the carpet with his little notebook and was fiddling with something. Xiao Guai lay beside him and watched, letting out a crisp laugh. Brother Yi, this is so fun. Xiaodong couldn't help but look up at the laptop screen. It turned out that he was playing a game. Gigai, do you want to play? I'll teach you. Xiao Yi now enjoyed the feeling of having siblings. Okay, Brother E. How about this? The two little guys leaned their heads against each other, whispering and laughing from time to time. The atmosphere was very warm and happy. However, they didn't know that a crisis was slowly approaching them. Hospital. It was past 9 o'clock at night and Su Xing-chen was the only one left in the VIP ward. She was playing with her laptop out of boredom. Her face had gone through a second plastic surgery and the gauze on her face hadn't been removed. Under the light from the laptop screen, she looked a little creepy. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. She thought it was the nurse, so she didn't raise her head and said impatiently, "Come in." She heard the crisp sound of footsteps and saw a tall figure standing in front of her bed. Su Xing-chen felt that something was wrong. She raised her head and her eyes were filled with surprise. "Godfather, you've finally come to see me." The person who came was her godfather. He was wearing a black trench coat and looked to be in his 40s, much younger than his actual age. He had a handsome face and there was a sense of calmness and experience between his brows. In his deep eyes, there was an imperceptible shrewdness. The corner of his lips hooked up and his smile was very gentle. "Baby, your mommy-daddy is watching over you in the hospital every day. It's not convenient for me to come and see you." "I know, Godfather. I don't blame you." Su Xing-chen touched her face that was wrapped in gauze and said self-deprecatingly, "I've become ugly now. I'm worried that I'll scare you." Her godfather sat by her bed and put his arm around her shoulders. "Baby, don't talk nonsense. No matter what you become, Godfather won't be scared." "Then, Godfather, will you still love me?" She looked at him carefully. "Of course I will. Silly girl, don't forget that I'm your godfather." Her godfather rubbed her hair lovingly. He paused and asked in a low voice, "I had someone send you the antidote. Is it useful?" Su Xing-chen nodded. "It's quite useful. When my drug addiction kicks in, it's not that painful anymore." A few days after she was disfigured and hospitalized, her godfather secretly sent someone to send her a bottle of antidote. He said that it could suppress the drug addiction in her body and let her take it when the drug addiction kicks in. "That's good. Baby, don't worry. Godfather won't let those who hurt you off." Her godfather's sharp eyes hid a cold, murderous aura. I believe in Godfather." Su Xing-chen hugged his arm and acted coquettishly. "Godfather, did you come to see me today for something?" The smile on his godfather's face disappeared. "Baby, I have two news. One is good news and the other is bad news. Which one do you want to hear first?" Su Xing-chen's fingers tightened. "Let's hear the bad news first." Her godfather sighed. "The bad news is that the man you like has already married Xia Dong." Su Xing-chen burst into tears. Her godfather comforted her. "Baby, don't be sad. There are many good men in the world. Godfather can help you find 10 or even 100 of them." Su Xing-chen sobbed. "Actually, I already knew that I had no hope. I lost my chastity and my face was disfigured. He definitely won't want me, but I'm still so sad." "Godfather, I've liked Brother Han since I was very, very young." Her godfather patted her shoulder and comforted her. I know. Girl, don't cry, She wiped her tears. "Since I was young, Brother Han only had Su Yunqian in his eyes. He never looked at me more than a few times. When I grew up, he fell in love with Xia Dong. Godfather, tell me, how am I worse than them?" "You're not bad at all. You're better than them. It's Bailey Han who can't see how good you are." "Girl, don't cry. Godfather will tell you a piece of good news. Okay?" She sobbed pitifully. "Okay, then tell me. What's the good news?" "The good news is that Bailey Han and Xia Dong are living together." "How is that good news?" Su Xing-chen interrupted him and cried even more sadly. "Baby, let me finish." Her godfather patted her shoulder helplessly. "Recently, I've been secretly monitoring them. I want to find a loophole and avenge you. These 2 days, I finally found out that Bailey's old madam doesn't like Xia Dong and forced her to leave Bailey Han. And Bailey Han married Xia Dong behind the old madam's back. Say, if this matter is exposed by the media and reaches the old madam's ears, won't there be a huge uproar?" Su Xing-chen gradually stopped sobbing. Her eyes that were still wet with tears emitted a cold light. "Godfather, you're right. Not only must we let the old madam know, but we must also let Su Yunqian know." Su Yunqian definitely won't let Xiaodong off. Not only that, there's also Mika Kito. Although he returned to Japan, I believe he's still paying attention to Xiaodong's situation. When he returns to China, do you think he'll agree to Xiaodong marrying Bailey Han? Su Xingchen bit her lip. Then will Mika Kito harm Brother Han? Her godfather sighed. Baby, they've already caused you so much trouble. Why are you still thinking about that man? Let them deal with their own grudges. All we're doing is adding fuel to the fire. Su Xingchen gritted her teeth and struggled for a long time. But when she thought about how she was now neither human nor ghost and how Bailey Han could no longer fall in love with her, she finally made up her mind and nodded. Her godfather comforted her and said, Baby, don't worry. I'll use this opportunity to make Mika Kito pay the price. Xiaodong did not expect trouble to come so quickly. The next morning, after Bailey Han said goodbye to his wife and children, he was about to go to the company. Just as he opened the door, countless lights flashed in front of him. A group of reporters surrounded him and asked all sorts of questions. Mr. Bailey, I heard that you and Miss Xiaodong got married. Did you get married so quickly because Miss Xia is pregnant with your child? Mr. Bailey, did you break up with Miss Su because you fell in love with Miss Xia? Did Miss Xia get pregnant before or after you broke up with Miss Su? Miss Xia, aren't you Mika Kito's fiancé? Why did you suddenly marry Mr. Bailey? Does Mr. Beitang know about your marriage? Sharp questions came one after another, catching Xiaodong off guard. Bailey Han was calm. He opened his arms and stopped the reporters who came forward. He protected Xiaodong and let her go back to the room. He avoided the reporters' questions, closed the door with a bang, and squeezed out of the crowd of reporters. With a cold expression, Bailey Han glanced at the group of reporters and said coldly, I don't care which newspaper or magazine you are from. If anyone dares to say anything, I, Bailey Han, will immediately make sure that they lose their jobs. They won't even be able to say another word. The reporters were stunned. They knew how powerful Bailey's family was, so naturally, they did not dare to confront him head-on. There were also a few who were not afraid of death and secretly recorded Bailey Han's threats. Of course, whether they were really not afraid of death, or if they had ulterior motives and pretended to be reporters, this was worth pondering. Bailey Han entered the elevator and called Xiaodong. He told her not to worry and that he would send people to deal with the group of reporters outside the door. Soon, two cold-faced men in black suits blocked the entrance of Xiaodong's apartment building. They snatched the cameras from the hands of the reporters and took the memory cards inside. There was a lot of noise downstairs. Many people in the residential building heard the noise and poked their heads out to watch the show. Xiaodong was also very anxious at home. Xiaoyi held a small notebook and browsed through the news of the day. She suddenly found that Daddy and Mommy's matter had already spread on the internet. Her little face immediately became cold. If this matter became known, it would be impossible to hide it from great-grandma. She would definitely make trouble for Mommy. Xiaoyi, what's wrong? Xiaodong saw Xiaoyi's dark face staring at the computer screen and asked with concern. Xiaoyi slammed the notebook shut and said, Nothing, Mommy. I want to eat dessert. Can you make it for me? Xiaodong was stunned. Then she smiled happily and hugged him tightly. Xiaoyi, you just called me Mommy. I'm so happy. Xiaoyi's little face flushed red and he awkwardly avoided her gaze. He just wanted to divert her attention. He didn't expect that he would subconsciously call her Mommy. Xiaoyi, can you call me Mommy again? She rubbed his cheeks and happily teased him, temporarily forgetting about the troubles outside. His face darkened. Don't rub my face. Why did she like to rub his face like second uncle? Xiaodong smiled. If you call me Mommy again, I won't rub it. He snorted and puffed up his cheeks like a cute little bun. Call me Mommy. Mommy. His voice was pitifully soft, but Xiaodong still heard him clearly. She gave him a loud kiss on the cheek. Baby, Mommy is so happy. His rosy cheeks flushed red. The mother and son were enjoying the happiness of a family reunion, but the outside world was already in chaos. Su Yunqian was still dreaming of making Bailey Han change his mind when she suddenly found out from the internet that Bailey Han and Xiaodong had secretly gotten married. Moreover, Bailey Han had even brought Xiao Yi to Xiaodong's house. She thought she had seen wrongly and carefully read the headlines 3 times. In the end, she rolled her eyes and almost vomited blood from anger. They actually got married. Damn it, how did things develop so quickly? What should she do now? Bailey's old residence was already in chaos. The old madam was so angry that she fainted and called the family doctor for emergency treatment. The first thing the old madam said when she woke up was to call Bailey Han and ask him to come home. When Bailey Han received the call from the servant, he was on his way to the old residence. He knew that once things got out of hand, the first person he had to appease was the old madam. Fortunately, he was already prepared for a war. Come and see. Song Shu 566. Chapter 187. As soon as Bailey Han stepped into the living room, he could feel the anger of his family. Old Madam, Bai Jinxiu, and Bailey Xiong assumed the posture of a three-way trial. Everyone was furious, and a storm was brewing. He looked calm and said frankly, "Grandma, Mom, Dad, Xiaodong and I are married." The old madam used her walking stick to poke the floor fiercely, her eyes burning with anger. "Bailey Han, you bastard. You hid such an important matter like your marriage from us. Do you still have us elders in your eyes?" Bailey Han said calmly, "I'm here to clarify this matter. Grandma, tell me first, why do you hate Xiaodong so much?" Old madam said angrily, "I won't allow you to marry Xiaodong, not only because I hate her, but also because she doesn't deserve to enter the Bailey family." The corner of Bailey Han's lips curled up in a mocking smile. "Grandma, don't talk about all that nonsense. What do you mean by not being of equal status? I already know everything that happened 5 years ago." The three elders were shocked, thinking that he had recovered his memory. Bai Jinxiu said anxiously, "Han, since you've recovered your memory, do you have a headache again? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" Seeing his mother's anxiety, Bailey Han felt a little guilty. He said in a gentle tone, "Mom, I'm fine, and I didn't remember anything from the past. However, I've already investigated what happened 5 years ago. Grandma, you've all misunderstood Xiaodong." Bailey Han learned from Ahu's investigation that 5 years ago, old madam knew that Xiaodong had successfully stolen a child and helped her keep the child. She even adopted her as her god-granddaughter so that she could enter and leave the Bailey family freely. When he did something overboard and almost caused Xiaodong to have a miscarriage, old madam forced him to take Xiaodong to Bali to relax. All this showed that old madam still cared about Xiaodong and liked her very much. Then why did the old madam suddenly change her attitude and hate Xiaodong so much? Bailey Han thought for a while and finally came to a conclusion. There must have been some misunderstanding between the old madam and Xiaodong. Madam Dowager snorted coldly. "Misunderstanding? What misunderstanding? She is a vain woman. Back then, she deliberately got close to you and got pregnant. I wanted to take pity on her and let her give birth to the child. But in the end, she hooked up with Mika Kito and eloped with him to Japan. She even caused you to get into a car accident. Now that she has given birth to Mika Kito's child, why is she still bothering you? What right does such a fickle woman have to marry into the Bailey's family?" Bailey Han finally understood what kind of misunderstanding the old madam had about Xiaodong. He frowned and explained one thing at a time. "Grandma, when Xiaodong left China back then, she did not elope with Mika Kito. 5 years ago, she was framed and the scandal was all over the place. She wanted to ask me for help to solve it, but she was kidnapped on the way. Those people not only wanted to abort the child in her womb, but they also wanted to humiliate her. Fortunately, Mika Kito arrived and saved her life. Xiaodong knew that someone wanted to harm her, so she asked Mika Kito to hide in Japan. The old madam did not expect this at all. She was stunned for a few seconds and retorted, "Even so, why did she stay in Japan? It's obvious that she didn't want to give the child to the Bailey's family." Bailey Han was helpless. "Grandma, you are also a mother. Why can't you understand Xiaodong's feelings as a mother? She did have some selfish motives, but she was not vain. As for the other things, I can explain them." The old madam said angrily, "Fine, tell me. I want to hear your explanation." Bailey Han rubbed his forehead. "I already have some memories of the accident. It has nothing to do with Xiaodong. I was careless and didn't see the truck in front of me, so I crashed into it. Xiaodong didn't come back from Japan to pester me. But..." As he said this, He hesitated. Should he tell the family that Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai were also his biological children? If he didn't tell them, they would continue to misunderstand. But if he told them that he did not discuss it with Xiaodong, she might get angry again. The old madam was anxious and angry. Why did she come back to China? Tell us. Bailey Han glanced at the three elders. They all had an expression that said, if you don't explain it clearly, don't think about it. So he frowned and decided to tell the truth. Grandma, back then, Xiaodong was pregnant with triplets. You took away Xiao Yi, but you didn't know that she later gave birth to Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai. So, Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai are actually my children too. Ignoring the shocked expressions of his family members, he continued to drop the second bombshell. Xiao Guai has aplastic anemia. The only way to save her is for Xiaodong to give birth to a child with the same genes as her, then extract the newborn's umbilical cord blood for a transplant. This is the reason why Xiaodong wants to come back to China. The old madam held her forehead and almost fainted again. Bai Jinxiu quickly patted her back, and Bailey Xiong poured her a cup of tea. When the old madam caught her breath, Bailey Xiong asked, if Xiao Guai is really your child, Xiaodong could have just come to us for help if she wanted to save Xiao Guai. Why did she have to come up with so many tricks? I think she's lying again. Back then, Grandma used the lives of Xiaodong's aunt and uncle as a threat to take away Xiao Yi. How do you expect Xiaodong to say that? You want to wait until you know the truth before taking away her other two children? Bailey Han took out a test report. I know you won't believe what I'm saying, but this is Xiao Bao's and my paternity test report. This test report was provided by Xiao Bao. At that time, he found out that Xiao Bao had known that he was his daddy for a long time and misunderstood that he had abandoned him and his mother. That was why he had been targeting him. The old madam took the test report. It stated that the possibility of the two of them being related by blood was 99%. Silence. A deathly silence. After nearly 10 minutes, the old madam finally calmed down from the huge shock. She sorted out her thoughts and asked with a gloomy expression, you said that Xiaodong and Mika Quito have nothing to do with each other. What about the previous reports? Isn't she engaged to Mika Quito? That was all nonsense written by the media. Her engagement to Mika Quito is also fake. Before deciding to clear Xiaodong's name, Bailey Han had asked Yi Siki about the inside story. Xiaodong got close to me because she wanted to save Xiao Guai. She didn't want to ruin my relationship with Yun Qian, so she deliberately pretended that she was engaged to Mika Quito. The old madam immediately understood after Bailey Han's explanation. It turned out that he had already had feelings for Xiaodong back then. How is Xiao Guai's condition? Although the old madam didn't like Xiaodong, Xiao Guai was still Bailey's child, so she still cared about him. His condition isn't ideal. He needs surgery as soon as possible. The atmosphere froze again. The prerequisite for the surgery was that Xiaodong had to give birth to the baby. Everyone knew what this meant. The old madam was now in a dilemma. She could either agree to the marriage between Bailey Han and Xiaodong in order to save Xiao Guai, or she could resolutely disagree and cause the death of her own great-granddaughter. Bai Jinxiu was still on Su Yunqian's side. Under these circumstances, she definitely wouldn't support Bailey Han. Bailey Xiong, on the other hand, was moved by compassion. He advised, Mom, since Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai are both our children, it's not a good thing for them to lead a wandering life. It's not good for our family. Since they're already married, why don't we just admit it? However, the old madam's prejudice against Xiaodong had been deeply rooted in her heart for 5 years. Even if the misunderstanding was resolved, she still felt uncomfortable. She clenched her teeth and refused to let go. Bailey Han saw that Bailey Xiong was already on his side. He smiled and said, Dad, in a few months, you'll have another grandson. Bailey Xiong was stunned. Could it be that Xiaodong is pregnant? Bailey Han smiled. If she gives birth to this baby, Xiao Guai will be saved. The situation was getting out of hand. The old madam was already on the verge of wavering. It was rare for his son to smile at him. Bailey Xiong was even more determined to stand on his side. He tried to persuade the old madam, Mom, you don't want the baby to be called an illegitimate child as soon as he's born, right? I've seen both Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai. They're both smart children. Don't you always say that the family is too small? It's too lonely to have only one child, Xiao Yi. If he has siblings to accompany him, he'll grow up happier. It's a good thing for him and for our family. Don't you think so? The more children one had, the more blessings one would have. The older generation had this concept. The old madam was no exception. She was moved by Bailey Xiong's words. After a long silence, she sighed heavily. Bailey Han's expression did not change. He was calm and indifferent, but his heart was beating like a drum. He didn't know what kind of answer she would give. Since you've already registered your marriage, then so be it. The old madam paused and said, however, you have to move to the old mansion. Xia Dong is Bailey's daughter-in-law, so she has to behave like a daughter-in-law. Although Bai Jinxiu was unhappy that the old madam agreed to their marriage so easily, she felt much better after hearing the old madam's last sentence. She knew that the old madam was going to set rules for Xia Dong. Bailey Han also knew. He frowned. Grandma, Xia Dong is pregnant now. She has to take care of 3 children. What? You're starting to feel sorry for her? The old madam snorted and said, when she moves in, there are so many servants at home. Are you afraid that she'll be tired? So what if she's pregnant? When I was pregnant with your father, I went to the battlefield with your grandfather. Bailey Han still wanted to say something, but Bailey Xiong coughed heavily and said, Han, hurry up and thank your grandma. Since she's going to be our daughter-in-law, she has to be presentable. Your grandma comes from a scholarly family and is knowledgeable. She won't be happy if ordinary people ask her for advice. Bailey Han knew that his father was speaking up for him and was worried that he would annoy his grandma. He pursed his lips and said, Grandma, then I'll thank you on behalf of Xia Dong. That's more like it. The old madam muttered a few words. She still felt uncomfortable. Move in 2 days. Get rid of the rumors outside quickly. It's annoying to hear them. Bailey Han said faintly, I'll take care of it. The Dragon Gang subordinates were not idle. Bailey Han had just walked out of the old mansion when Bao called to report the situation. Eldest young master, 2 of the reporters who blocked Madam's door were impersonators from the underworld. They even recorded you threatening them and planned to release it to the public. Bailey Han got into the car and said coldly, Who do they work for? Old K. Isn't Old K dead? Why would the Flame Gang have the time to do this? They're probably being used. Those 2 said that someone gave them 100,000 yuan to gather the reporters and cause trouble at Madam's door. Who's the mastermind behind this? Have you found out? Bao couldn't help but wipe his sweat. No. It said that the other party used a public phone to contact them. They've never met. Bailey Han frowned. The first person he thought of was Su Xingchen, who had always been against Xia Dong. However, Su Xingchen was now disfigured and hospitalized. Moreover, the police were monitoring him from afar. He shouldn't act rashly. He was silent for a moment. Bao, check Godfather's whereabouts and see who he's been in contact with recently. In the last kidnapping case, Godfather had intentionally or unintentionally protected Su Xingchen. He had reason to believe that the relationship between Su Xingchen and Godfather was not simple. Yes. Check again. Shanghao Group's recent business rivals. It could also be a business rival that was unfavorable to him. Yes. Bailey Han didn't go to the office. He called Lu Zihao and gave him some instructions. Then, he drove directly to Xia Dong's place. He had something important to do now. When he went upstairs, he bumped into people who lived in the same building. Everyone looked at him strangely. He didn't care at all. His expression was still cold. He pressed the doorbell. Xia Dong opened the door for him. Although she was smiling, he could see the worry and fear in her eyes. He hugged her and kissed her forehead. He said softly, Honey, don't worry. I'll take care of those things. Now, I have good news to tell you. She pushed him and motioned for him to let go. The child was still in the living room. After he let go, she asked, What good news? He smiled. Grandma has agreed to our marriage. Really? You're not lying to me? She widened her eyes in disbelief. Of course it's true. Little fool, your husband is so capable. Why would I lie to you? Bailey Han raised his eyebrows proudly. He had an expression that said, Praise me quickly. Xia Dong still couldn't believe it. She covered her mouth and widened her eyes. She didn't say anything. Little Treasure and Little Wingsy, who were playing in the living room, looked at each other and grinned at the same time. They laughed happily. Their family could finally reunite openly. Beauty Novel, Song Shu 566. Chapter 188. The two little guys gave Bailey Han a thumbs up. Bailey Han lifted his chin, indicating for them to hurry back into the house and not be the third wheel. The two of them smiled evilly, hugged their little notebooks, and ran back into the room like a wisp of smoke. After a while, Xiaodong muttered, "Han, pinch me. I think I'm dreaming." He couldn't bear to pinch her. His lips curled into a mischievous smile. He lowered his head and kissed her lips, telling her directly that she wasn't dreaming. When he let go of her, the two of them were already panting. She lay on his chest and asked foolishly, "Why would old madam accept me? I thought she hated me to death." He kissed her hair lovingly, and his voice was a little hoarse. "Silly, you should call her Grandma now. Grandma had some misunderstandings about you, and I've cleared up these misunderstandings. Of course, she has no reason to hate you anymore. Moreover, you've given birth to 3 precious children for our family. Dad, Mom, Grandpa, and Grandma want to accept you because of the children." Xiaodong was still in a daze. For a long while, she still felt that it was unreal. She secretly pinched herself. Ouch, it really hurt. Only then did she believe that she wasn't dreaming. Her nose twitched, and her tears couldn't help but flow out. However, she forced them not to fall. Choking, she said, "Han, I'm so happy. Xiaoyi called me mommy this afternoon. And your family is willing to accept me. Thank you for everything you've done for me." He hugged her tightly and teased with a smile, "Wifey, if you're really grateful to me, call me hubby." She looked up, her eyes glistening with tears. She said each word seriously, "Hubby." He kissed her cheek and chuckled. "That's nice to hear." She lowered her eyes, and her shy look made his heart as soft as cotton candy. When she calmed down, he smiled and said, "Wifey, dress up and change into something beautiful. I'm going to take you somewhere." "Where are we going?" "It's a secret first." He smiled mysteriously. Xiaodong didn't know what he was up to, but seeing how happy he was, she guessed that it couldn't be anything bad. She was wearing a white silk dress, low-cut and backless, which outlined her perfect figure. However, Bailey Han's face darkened as he asked her to change into another one. Xiaodong looked at herself in the mirror. "Why, I think it looks good," Siki said. When she wore this dress, she looked noble and elegant. She also thought it looked good. Bailey Han's entire body was almost emitting cold air. "There are too many exposed areas, you can only wear it for me to see." He did not want to let other men feast their eyes on her. She giggled. "So you're jealous? Then I'll change to a more conservative one." Bailey Han gritted his teeth. "I'm just jealous. In the future when you go out, you're not allowed to wear skirts that are shorter than your knees, revealing your back, chest, and shoulders. You might as well just let me go out in my long shirt and trousers." Xiaodong's face darkened. He didn't even allow her to show her shoulders. This was too much. Bailey Han touched his chin. "That's a good idea." Xiaodong vomited blood and walked out with her hands on the wall. Xiaodong took 2 or 3 dresses that she thought were more conservative and compared them to her body. Bailey Han shook his head and rejected them all. She was completely at her wit's end. Bailey Han suddenly grabbed her wrist. "Let's go out for a while." Why? "I haven't chosen my clothes yet." "You don't have to choose. Someone will help you choose later." Bailey Han dragged Xiaodong all the way to the busiest district in the city. With his arm around her waist, the two of them took the elevator directly to the 12th floor. Xiaodong's eyes were glued to the magnificent studio. After 5 years, she did not expect to be dragged to the studio of the internationally renowned stylist, Anson. Anson actually still remembered her. There was a gentle smile on his handsome face. "Miss Xia, oh no, I should call you Mrs. Bailey now. I haven't seen you for 5 years and you've become even more charming." "Anson, I didn't expect you to still remember me. You're still as charming as before." Xiaodong smiled as she reached out her hand and politely shook his hand. Bailey Han calmly put his arm around Xiaodong's shoulder and declared his ownership. Anson, help my wife style. The clothes can't be too revealing. They can't show her back, shoulders, or low cut. Young master, you're deliberately making things difficult for me. If she wanted to look beautiful now, how could she wrap herself so tightly? Bailey Han raised his eyebrows proudly. If you can't do it, I can find someone else. Anson held his forehead. Aren't you asking me to ruin my reputation? Forget it. I'll listen to you. Mrs. Bailey, this way please. Anson had a bitter smile on his face. Xiaodong actually felt like they were in the same boat. He sat down in the seat that Anson had designated and said sympathetically, Anson, I will remember your great kindness in my heart. Anson laughed heartily. He suddenly understood why Bailey Han liked this woman. She was beautiful, elegant, humorous, and witty. She exuded a mature charm that was no less than those female stars he had seen. An hour later, Xiaodong walked out of the fitting room with the help of Anson's assistant. She was wearing a champagne-colored silk V-neck dress. Fortunately, it wasn't a deep V-neck, which barely met Bailey Han's requirements. Her hair was tied up, which made the lines of her neck even more charming. Her waist was perfectly cinched, and her shoulders and waist were decorated with crystals and broken diamonds. The dress swayed and fell to the ground, which made her exude an elegant and ethereal temperament. Bailey Han noticed that she was wearing a platinum necklace around her neck. Although it wasn't shiny enough, it complemented the dress well. He had also changed his clothes. He was wearing a white suit with exquisite facial features. Under his sword-like eyebrows, the bridge of his nose was proud and handsome. He was God's perfect masterpiece. Everything was so similar to 5 years ago. The only difference was that they were now husband and wife. She looked at him and smiled lightly. He walked closer to her and held her arm. He whispered, "The dress is cinched at the waist. Did it press on you and the baby?" She smiled. "No, it's just the right size." When the assistant helped her change her clothes, he even said that the dress seemed to be specially designed for her. Anson raised his eyebrows proudly. "How is it? Are you satisfied?" Bailey Han raised his eyebrows. "Your skills are average. Fortunately, my wife is beautiful. You can get full marks with just a casual dress-up." Anson was furious. This guy forgot about his friends when he had a wife. Even if he wanted to please his wife, he shouldn't step on his friends. This was too much. Xiaodong smiled and her eyes curved charmingly. "Anson, don't listen to his nonsense. Your skills are definitely worth 120 points. Bailey Han said seriously, "Wifey, the full marks are definitely 150 points. No, the full marks are 100 points. The other 20 points are bonus points." Xiaodong glared at him. Her charming eyes naturally revealed a flirtatious temperament. Bailey Han's heart fluttered and he held her waist. He didn't want others to see her beauty anymore. He wanted to hide her at home. After getting into the car, Bailey Han didn't drive home. Instead, he drove to the hotel that Lu Zihao had booked. Xiaodong was worried about the children. Bailey Han comforted her. "I've already called the butler. He'll take care of the children." Xiaodong's lips curved into a smile. "Hubby, you're so thoughtful." This was the first time she had taken the initiative to call him hubby. Her husband had pleased Bailey Han. Every pore on her body felt comfortable. The car stopped at the entrance of the hotel. Looking at the reporters surrounding the car and the flashing lights, Xiaodong was a little surprised. She still didn't know what Bailey Han was planning to do. Bailey Han held her hand and smiled gently. "Wifey, don't be afraid. I'm here." She looked into his deep and bright eyes. The uneasiness and nervousness in her heart gradually dissipated. She held his hand and smiled confidently. "I'm not afraid because you're here." She believed in him. This kind of trust made his heart tremble. It turned out that being trusted by the person he loved was a very fulfilling thing. He could imagine what kind of uproar it would cause when the two of them appeared at the same time. There were flashing lights all around them and the sound of shutters clicking could be heard. After the car door opened, Bailey Han bent over to get out of the car. The reporters immediately crowded over and the bodyguard stepped forward to block them. Lu Zihao stood beside Bailey Han and faced the media. He smiled and said, "Friends from the media, please be patient. In 15 minutes, our CEO will hold a press conference in the banquet hall on the second floor of the hotel. Everyone, please enter first. If you have any questions, you can ask them later. The reporters were still unwilling to leave. It seemed that they wanted to wait for Xiaodong to come out. Bailey Han looked straight ahead and focused on the person in the car. Wifey, are you ready? Xiaodong nodded. She smiled and placed her hand in his palm. She elegantly and calmly walked out of the car. The sound of shutters was everywhere, but no one stepped forward to ask a question. Surrounded by the reporters, Xiaodong held onto Bailey Han's arm and walked elegantly and confidently into the press conference. Although this press conference was prepared under Bailey Han's urgent orders, the venue was not sloppy in the slightest. All the reporters from the major media outlets were invited to be present. As the host, Lu Zihao first expressed his gratitude to the reporters for being present. Then, he handed the right to speak to Bailey Han. Bailey Han glanced at the packed reporters below the stage. His handsome face was as cold as ever. He said calmly, "Thank you all for being here. Today, in front of the media, I will explain a few things. If you have any questions, you can ask after I'm done. As long as it is within reason, I will answer them one by one." The audience was very quiet. No one interrupted his speech. Bailey Han glanced at Xiaodong. He smiled and said, "Xiaodong and I fell in love 5 years ago. However, due to some misunderstanding, she left China for Japan. I had an accident and lost my memory. Just like that, we were separated for 5 years. It wasn't until recently that I found out the truth and got her back." At Hongcha 866. Chapter 189. Xiaodong looked at him with a hint of surprise in her eyes, but more than that, she was touched. She didn't expect him to explain their relationship in front of all the media. He paused for a moment before continuing. "Xiaodong is the legal wife of Bailey Han. Friends from the media, please stop making groundless accusations and publishing unrealistic reports in the future." His last sentence was a little harsh. Someone felt offended and questioned loudly, "Mr. Bailey, since you said that Miss Xia and you are lovers, why is she engaged to Mr. Beitang?" Bailey Han replied expressionlessly, "My wife and Mika Kito are only foster siblings. Their engagement is a fake one. The purpose is to make me jealous." Not expecting the great CEO to answer so bluntly, the reporter who asked the question was stunned. He quickly asked, "Previously, there was news that Miss Xia's 2 children are also Mr. Beitang's. May I ask if this news is true?" Bailey Han's expression was serious. "Of course not. Xiao Bao, Xiao Guai and Xiao Yi are all my wife's children. The Bailey family also acknowledges their identities." Another person asked, "Mr. Bailey, I'm very curious. Why did Miss Xia only appear 5 years later?" Everyone was very curious. Since Xiaodong had given birth to Bailey Han's children, why did she wait 5 years before coming back to look for Bailey Han? Bailey Han's face darkened. This question was related to Xiaodong and the children's privacy, so he didn't want to answer. Just as he was about to open his mouth and refuse to answer, Xiaodong unexpectedly took the microphone. She looked at Bailey Han and gave him a reassuring smile. Then she faced the media and said, "Let me answer this question. 5 years ago, there was a big misunderstanding between my husband and I. I left home and gave birth to the children. I didn't plan to come back, but I didn't expect our daughter to be seriously ill. I had no choice but to come back and ask him for help." Her eyes gradually filled with tears as she continued, "I love my 3 children. I don't want them to be exposed to the public or even laughed at, so I chose to explain everything clearly. I hope that everyone can give the children a peaceful life on account of me as their mother. Thank you, everyone." After saying this, her tears almost fell. Bailey Han ignored the burning gazes of the audience and put his arm around her shoulders. The tenderness on his face and the heartache in his eyes moved the reporters below the stage. Everyone took photos of the loving couple, and the audience was silent. Someone in the corner clapped his hands and immediately got a response. The applause sounded like thunder. Lu Zihao thanked them politely on behalf of the 2 main characters. Suddenly, a sharp man's voice came from below the stage. "Mr. Bailey, I would like to ask you something. We all know that you and Miss Su Yunqian were already lovers 5 years ago. Why did you say that you and Miss Xia were lovers?" Could it be that Miss Xia was a third party who came between you and Miss Su? Bailey Han looked up at the man who spoke. He had a square face, thick eyebrows and the name tag on his chest read, Evening News Reporter, Liang Jiping. Bailey Han stared at him with a deep gaze and a cold aura. 5 years ago, Miss Su went to England to develop her career and we broke up peacefully. My wife has never been a third party. Please show some respect when you speak. Liang Jiping sneered and said in a mocking tone, How come I heard that Miss Xia stole your seed from a bar and then eloped with Mr. Beitang to Japan? This person was definitely here to stir up trouble. Bailey Han glanced at Ahu, who was hiding among the reporters. Ahu received the signal from his eyes and nodded. He quietly got up and walked behind Liang Jiping. Bailey Han's expression didn't change as he said indifferently, I didn't expect you to know more about what happened that year than us. Should I praise you for being omniscient, or should I lament that you seem to know too much? No media had ever reported the incident of the bar stealing seed, nor had there been any rumors about it. How did the reporter who asked the question know about it? No one in the audience was stupid. From Bailey Han's slightly mocking tone, they could guess that this person was up to no good. Liang Jiping was stunned. He wanted to say something, but he suddenly felt something pressed against his waist. A burly man in a black suit beside him put his arm around his shoulder and smiled apologetically. I'm sorry, Mr. Bailey. My friend drank too much and spouted nonsense. I'll take him away now. Bailey Han's lips curled up. Go ahead. Hi. Liang Jiping opened his mouth, but before he could finish speaking, an electric current traveled from his waist. He immediately went limp on Ahu's shoulder. Ahu smiled apologetically. I didn't expect him to be so drunk. Sorry for the disturbance, everyone. Ahu supported Liang Jiping and swaggered out of the press conference. The reporters in the audience didn't notice that Ahu had electrocuted Liang Jiping. They thought that the two were really friends, and that the person who spouted nonsense was indeed drunk. Think about it, which normal person would dare to frame Bailey Han for something that didn't happen at all? There were also a few people who were suspicious. Liang Jiping had gotten drunk too suddenly, but they didn't have time to think too much about it because Lu Zihao had already spoken. Dear friends, today's press conference has come to an end. Our CEO will cover all of your expenses. Next, Miss Etiquette will distribute some small gifts to everyone. The beautiful Miss Etiquette carried beautifully packaged bags and distributed one to everyone according to their seats. Some people quietly flipped through the bags and found a thick red packet and a bottle of expensive red wine. He was indeed the young master of Bailey's family. He was so generous. Everyone understood what to write in the following reports. Some reporters even went up to Bailey Han and Xia Dong to congratulate them on their blessings. Bailey Han thanked them politely in a gentlemanly manner. Bailey Han put his arm around Xia Dong's waist and got into the car amidst the blessings. This hotel was owned by Bailey's family. After Ahu got Liang Jiping out of the press conference, he took him out of the hotel through the staff passageway and threw him into the trunk of the car. Half an hour later, Ahu stopped the car in front of a villa. He said hello and someone immediately came out of the villa and carried Liang Jiping, who was still unconscious, to the basement. Ahu ordered his men, "Wake him up." His men used the simplest and most brutal method. They splashed a bucket of cold water on Liang Jiping. Liang Jiping woke up with a shiver and looked blankly at the two men standing in front of him. "Who are you? Why are you arresting me?" Ahu tore the reporter's ID off his chest and said coldly, "I've checked. There's no reporter named Liang Jiping in the evening newspaper. What's your real name? Who sent you here to cause trouble?" Liang Jiping knew that his impersonation had been exposed. However, he had been paid to do this, so naturally, he wouldn't reveal the mastermind behind the scenes. Gongzi, pry open his mouth. Ahu couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with him. He called one of his men over and put him in charge of prying information out of Liang Jiping's mouth. He could use any method, but there was only one rule: don't kill him. After giving his orders, Ahu went to the living room to drink tea leisurely. From the outside, this villa looked no different from an ordinary mansion. No one would think that this was the gathering place of City A's most mysterious gang, the Dragon Gang. This villa was built against the mountains and rivers. There were no other residential areas nearby, so it was very convenient. Even if they killed someone and dumped the corpse in the wilderness, no one would be able to find out. A quarter of an hour later, the little brother named Gang Zi ran over. Brother who? That kid said that the person who contacted him was a woman. The other party gave him 50,000 yuan to stir up trouble in the midst of the chaos. Ahu was about 1.8 meters tall. He was burly and had a square face. His thick eyebrows were furrowed. He's not from the Flame Gang? He's not. This kid isn't in cahoots with the 2 fake reporters we caught outside Madam's house. No, I showed him the photos of the 2 people. He said he didn't know them. Ahu's frown deepened. It seemed that there were 2 groups of people who wanted to deal with Elder Master and Madam. If the 2 fake reporters were sent by the Godfather, then who sent Liang Zhiping? He had to report this to Elder Master as soon as possible. When Bailey Han received Ahu's call, he was at Xia Dong's house. Xia Dong went back to her room to change her clothes. He took his phone to the balcony to make a call. Ahu reported the results of the interrogation. Bailey Han frowned and said, "Release Liang Zhiping and follow the vine to get to the melon." Understood. Elder Master. What about the 2 fake reporters? Release them too, but leave behind some souvenirs. You can decide what you want to leave behind. Warn them that if they dare to go against me again, the next thing they leave behind will be their lives. The people from the Yen Gang were always haunting him and Xia Dong. He hated them to the core. How could he not make a show of it? Ahu, how's the investigation on the Godfather's whereabouts? We haven't found anything yet. We've asked many people, but none of them have seen the Godfather's face. We don't even know where he's staying. It'll take some time to find out more about him. Bailey Han's voice was cold. Send 2 people to the hospital where Su Xingchen is. I suspect that the Godfather has a close relationship with Su Xingchen. If that's the case, it's very likely that he's in the hospital. Yes. After ending the call, Xia Dong had removed her makeup. Her hair was down her back, and she had changed into a long white cotton dress. She was wearing home slippers and looked fresh and beautiful. He smiled and pulled her to sit on the sofa. Honey, I have something to tell you. Grandma wants us to move back to the old mansion. She was pouring tea for him. When she heard this, she froze. After a while, she smiled and replied, "Okay, I'm your daughter-in-law now. I should go back and do my duty as a daughter-in-law. Come and see." Hongcha 866. Chapter 190. Of course, Bailey Han could see that her smile was forced, and his heart ached. However, he hoped that she could get along well with her family. After all, both sides were people he loved deeply. He hugged her in his arms and said gently, "Wifey, Dad, Mom, Grandpa, and Grandma are all my family. I hope that they can accept you. There might be some friction in the beginning, and even some unpleasant things might happen. For me and the child, persevere, okay?" His eyes were filled with apprehension and worry. He was afraid that the timid her would shrink back because of the difficulties. He was so proud, but he actually lowered himself and discussed with her in a pleading tone. She felt a little warm and touched. She hugged him and chuckled. "Hubby, I've said it before. Once I take that step, even if the whole world opposes us, I'll face it with you. Don't worry, I won't shrink back." He heaved a sigh of relief and smiled proudly. The woman he liked was indeed extraordinary. The next day, the old mansion sent servants to help them move. The furniture was not moved, and only their clothes, books, computers, and other personal items were moved away. Bailey Han carried Xiao Guai downstairs first. Xia Dong and Xiao Bao walked at the back. Looking at the house that she had lived in for nearly half a year, she suddenly felt a little reluctant to leave. Although the room was not big and the decorations were not luxurious, it was filled with memories and laughter of her and the children. The future made her nervous, but love made her brave. She took a deep breath, held Xiao Bao's hand, walked out of the room, and locked the door. "Mom, if Uncle Shin comes back and finds out that we've moved, he'll be very angry and anxious." Xiao Bao sighed with a sad face. Xia Dong was also worried about this problem. She had talked to Mika Kito several times on the phone, but she had never dared to tell him about her marriage with Bailey Han. Now that it had developed to the point of moving house, if she still did not tell him, she would definitely die a horrible death when he returned from Japan. Old Madam had sent 2 cars over, and there were also 3 or 4 servants to help carry the luggage. The group of people was in full swing, and it was hard for the neighbors not to notice. A few neighbors who were close to Xia Dong came forward to congratulate her. Miss Xia, I saw your press conference yesterday. It was so touching. I wish you and Mr. Bailey a happy life together. Thank you. You're moving away now? Come back when you're free. All right. Sister Wang. Thank you for your care in the past. What are you talking about? Take care. Let's keep in touch. By the time they were in the car, the kind-hearted neighbors were still waving goodbye, and they moved out in a hubbub. What are you thinking about? Are you reluctant to leave? Bailey Han found that his wife was a little unhappy after getting into the car. Xia Dong smiled embarrassedly. It's nothing. I'm just a little troubled. He held her hand. What are you troubled about? Tell me. Maybe I can help you solve it. She smiled bitterly. I haven't told Brother Shen about our marriage. Now that I'm moving, I don't know how to tell him. But if I don't tell him, he'll be even angrier when he finds out about it when he returns to China. Bailey Han thought for a moment and said, Let's tell him now. If you don't want to tell him, I'll tell him. It's okay. I'll do it myself. If Bailey Han told him, he would be even angrier. Bailey Han kindly suggested, Do you want to call him now? It's not very convenient. It's convenient. I'll pretend that I didn't hear anything. Actually, there was only one reason why young Master Gu had urged Xia Dong to call him now. He wanted to eavesdrop on them so that they wouldn't say anything that went beyond friendship. Xia Dong thought for a moment. The people in the car were all her family members, so it would be convenient for them to talk. When she moved to the old mansion, she would feel very insecure. If they found out that she was in contact with Mika Kito, she wondered if they would gossip. Okay then. I'll call him now. Xia Dong dialed Mika Kito's number. It was a little noisy on his end. She could even hear the sound of flight announcements. After the call went through, there was no sound on the other end for a long time. She held the phone nervously and said, Brother Shen, I have something to tell you. Mika Kito's voice was very cold. He was suppressing his extreme anger. You don't have to say it. I know everything. You're married to Bailey Han, aren't you? She opened her mouth. After a while, she found her voice. Yes, you. How did you know? Do you think Lu Xing and Suzaku are idiots? Bailey Han moved to Xia Dong's house for no reason. Immediately after that, a large number of reporters swarmed her house. Lu Xing and Suzaku had reported this to him. He followed the domestic newspapers and quickly found out about her marriage to Bailey Han. He also saw their press conference yesterday. Mika Kito's anger had reached its peak and was about to burst out. He suppressed his anger and shouted, I've been waiting for your call and your explanation. But you only informed me when you moved. Xia Dong, am I so unimportant in your heart? No, Brother Shen. I just didn't know how to tell you. Xia Dong was so anxious that she was about to cry. Brother Shen, I'm sorry. I didn't do it on purpose. I'm at the airport now. I'll be in a city in a few hours. We'll talk then. Mika Kito did not wait for her to reply and hung up the phone. He gritted his teeth in hatred. His handsome face was a little distorted. The accompanying staff were shocked by the burst of anger from all over his body. They followed carefully, afraid that if they were not careful, they would be unlucky and not even know how they died. The matter in Japan had not been settled, but his wife had been snatched away. He was not in the mood to stay in Japan, so he booked an early flight back to a city. Bailey Han patted Xia Dong's shoulder. Don't be sad. Wait for him to come back. Then you can talk things out. Xia Dong wiped the corners of her eyes, afraid that he would misunderstand. Brother Shen was the one who saved me during my most difficult time. He brought me to Japan and helped me establish a foothold there. I'm very grateful to him and have always treated him as my brother. He kissed her hair. I understand. When he heard Yi Siki talk about Xia Dong's experience back then, his heart ached. He only hated himself for not saving her in the first place. Otherwise, there would not have been so many things that happened later. She turned to look at him. Will you be jealous? He answered honestly, yes, but I will try to accept it. My wife's savior is also my savior. Thank you. Xia Dong was very touched, But she did not know that Bailey Han actually did not say something. If his savior wanted to snatch his wife, then he would definitely treat him as an enemy. The car drove for more than half an hour and finally arrived at the old Bailey residence. Although she had been here many times, this time, she was the most nervous. At the entrance of the manor, 2 rows of servants stood neatly and bowed respectfully. "Welcome home, eldest young master and eldest young mistress." The old butler welcomed them with a smile. "Eldest young master, eldest young mistress, your rooms have been prepared. The rooms for the 2 young masters and Xiao Guai and Miss are also prepared. Please follow me upstairs." Bailey Han carried Xiao Guai, and another nanny carried Xiao Bao and Xiao Yi. The group went upstairs and did not see anyone else in the house. Xia Dong felt a little uneasy, but on the surface, she had a calm smile. Bailey Han held her hand and asked, "Butler, why don't I see old madam and madam?" The butler smiled and replied, "Eldest young master, Miss Jing returned to the country early. Old madam and madam went to the airport to pick up Miss Jing." Bailey Han pursed his lips and did not say anything. The butler led them to the 2nd floor. Bailey Han and Xia Dong's new room was the room Bailey Han used to live in. It had been redecorated, and the bed had been changed into bright red bedsheets and bedspread. It looked very jubilant. Xiao Yi still lived in the room she used to live in. Xiao Bao lived next door to Xiao Yi. The room's decoration was similar to Xiao Yi's room. It was a little mature, but Xiao Bao was very satisfied. Xiao Guai lived in the room opposite them. It was a very pink and dreamy room. From the furniture to the curtains, everything was pink. The room was filled with plush toys and dolls. Xiao Guai screamed excitedly. "What a beautiful room!" She liked it so much. Bailey Han whispered in Xia Dong's ear, "Xiao Jing, my younger sister, lived here when she was young. When she grew up, she found the room too pink and moved to the 3rd floor. Fortunately, our daughter likes it and doesn't dislike it for being too pink." Xia Dong couldn't help but laugh. "I also think it's too pink, but Xiao Guai likes this kind of kawaii style. Eldest young master, eldest young madam, little master, and miss, you're all tired. Take a rest first. I'll arrange for the servants to help you pack your luggage. Old madam and madam will be back in about 2 hours." Xia Dong smiled politely. "Okay, sorry to trouble you, butler. This is what I should do. Eldest young madam is too polite." The 3 little guys didn't have much luggage, so the servants quickly finished packing. Xia Dong didn't want others to do it for her. Moreover, she had private clothes that couldn't be seen by outsiders, so she politely declined the servants' help and packed it herself. Other than her clothes, there were also Bailey Han's 2 large suitcases. Before she could do anything, he was already 1 step ahead of her. He opened the suitcases and said, "Honey, you rest first. I'll unpack." She raised her eyebrows in amusement. "Do you know how to do these things?" She found it a little funny that the eldest young master was helping her pack. There was a teasing look in his eyes. "Didn't you say that I'm a must-have when traveling? How can these things be difficult for me?" She smiled. "You still remember?" Those were the words she had said on Snake Island. "Of course. I remember every word you said." His smile was so charming that she couldn't help but be intoxicated by it. "Okay, let's pack together so that we can finish earlier, okay?" "Okay." The 2 of them looked at each other and smiled. Attention, Xinwu 799. Chapter 191. After unpacking their luggage, Bailey Han accompanied Xia Dong, Xiao Bao, and Xiao Yi to the kindergarten to register. The 2 little guys were promoted to the kindergarten class. They were both wearing white suits with the same hairstyle and holding their chins proudly. When they walked into the classroom, they attracted the cheers of many little girls. The children sat in front of the classroom while their parents sat in the back. The homeroom teacher talked about some matters and things to take note of at the start of the school year. The teaching assistant gave the students new textbooks, and then everyone could take their books home. Classes would officially start tomorrow. When they returned to the old mansion, the butler said that old madam and old madam had already returned and were resting upstairs. Miss Jing did not come back with them. It was said that she received a phone call on the way back and hurriedly got out of the car to hail a taxi. No one knew where she went. Bailey Han explained to Xia Dong, "Xiao Jing is like this. She does things in a hurry and does whatever she wants. When she comes back, I'll introduce you to her. You'll like her. Okay. Xiaodong smiled. Let's go upstairs and see Grandma and Mom. Bailey Han lowered his head and looked at her abdomen. Change into a pair of shoes first. You must be tired after walking for so long. Although the heels on her feet were not high, they were not as comfortable as flat shoes. Okay. Xiaodong went back to her room to change into a pair of shoes and a pink dress. After all, they were still newlyweds. If she dressed too simply, the elderly might not like it. Bailey Han held her hand and knocked on the door of Old Madam's room. Old Master was lying on a rattan chair with his eyes slightly closed. Old Madam was sitting beside him, wearing reading glasses and holding a book. She was softly reading a poem by Pushkin. The sunlight quietly shone in through the window and spread on the floor. In the blue and white porcelain vase by the windowsill, 2 red roses quietly bloomed. The years were peaceful and elegant. Xiaodong and Bailey Han did not say anything to break the silence. The cold of winter is fast, and will visit the woods and fields. The blazing fire will soon light up the smoky cottage. And I will not see this charming Shao girl alone in her house, grieving in secret, like an oriole in a cage, and thinking only of my Natasha. And constantly thinking of Natasha. Old Madam's gentle voice had a touch of sadness. Perhaps she was also reminiscing about the years that had passed. After reading the poem aloud, she closed the book and placed it on the table beside her. She turned to look at the two standing at the door and said mildly, "You're back. Grandma, Shashya and I are here to see you." Bailey Han put his arm around Shashya's waist and walked to the old lady. "Sit down." Old Madam's expression was still indifferent, as if she did not care about Xiaodong at all. As a first-time daughter-in-law, Xiaodong did not know how to get along with her in-laws' elders. She thought for a moment and said with a smile, "Grandma, what do you and Grandpa want to eat for lunch?" "I'll make it." Old Madam said mildly, "You're Bailey's daughter-in-law, not a servant at home. You don't have to worry about the kitchen." Xiaodong pursed her lips and smiled. "Grandma, there are many things that I don't understand at home. Please don't despise me. I'll learn as soon as possible and won't let you down." Old Madam looked up at her. Her sharp eyes did not look like an 80-year-old woman's. Her tone was also cold. "We haven't had our daughter-in-law's tea yet, so you're not Bailey's official daughter-in-law. We'll serve you tea after your wedding. For now, go and see your mother-in-law. I'm tired." "Yes, Grandma." Walking out of Old Madam's room, Xiaodong still had a calm smile on her face, but Bailey Han's heart ached. Although Grandma did not scold her too much, her words and actions revealed her displeasure. He held her hand, and his warm strength made her feel at ease. She tilted her head and gave him a bright smile. "Han, let's go to Mom's room." Bai Jinxiu was sitting on the couch, wearing an ink chong sam. She looked elegant and noble. Her facial features were beautiful, and with light makeup, she looked like a Jiangnan beauty who had walked out of an ink painting. It was impossible to tell that she was already a grandmother. Bailey Han smiled. "Mom, Xia is here to see you." Xiaodong followed him and called out, "Mom." She raised her elegant eyes and said mildly, "Why are you standing at the door? Come and sit down." Bailey Han put his arm around Xiaodong's waist and sat opposite her. "Mom, why didn't Shao Jing come back with you?" Speaking of her precious daughter, a smile appeared on Bai Jinxiu's face. Shao Jing received a call and said that an old friend wanted to see her. "That little heartless girl left me and your grandma and ran away alone. It seems that she will only come back at night." Bailey Han smiled. "I haven't seen Shao Jing for more than 2 years. I wonder what she has become. She's so carefree, traveling all over Africa and Europe alone." Bai Jinxiu's tone was complaining, but there was a smile in her eyes. "That's right. I don't know where she got the guts to go to Africa. She even went to the desert and the rainforest. On the way back, she talked about the dangers of the journey, and your grandma and I were so scared that our hearts almost stopped beating." Xiaodong listened to their conversation and was very interested in Bailey Jing. She smiled and said, "Mom, I really admire Shao Jing. She has been to so many places alone. She must be a tenacious and special girl. I can't wait to see her now." Bai Jinxiu's smile paused, but her tone was still gentle. "You young people only know how to pursue excitement. You don't know how worried we parents are at home. Bailey Han smiled. Mom, don't you have Xiao Jing's photo album here? Can you let me and Xia Xia take a look? Bai Jinxiu rang the bell and called a servant. Xiao Chen, go to my bedroom and bring Miss Jing's photo album here. In less than 2 minutes, the servant came back with a thick crystal photo album. Madam, the photo album is here. Leave it. Bai Jinxiu motioned for the servant to leave and waved to the 2 people opposite her. Come and sit beside me. Bailey Han and Xia Dong sat on her left and right. She opened the crystal photo album. The first photo was a family photo, and the second was Bailey Jing's personal photo. The girl in the photo looked to be in her early 20s. She wore a tough black suit and sat proudly on the back of a horse. She had handsome short hair, wore a pair of black sunglasses, and wore a pair of exquisite and shiny riding boots. She looked very valiant and very chic. Xia Dong fell in love with this girl almost immediately. Bai Jinxiu smiled gently. Xiao Jing has always had a boy's personality since she was young. She flipped through the photos. This one was probably taken on Bailey Jing's birthday. She wore a white gauze dress and was facing a beautiful big cake. She had a smile on her lips and her eyes were closed. Her hands were clasped under her chin, and she seemed to be making a wish. This was taken on little Jing's 18th birthday. After this birthday, she went to study in England. Every time she flipped to a photo, Bai Jinxiu used a gentle voice to describe the background of the photo. Xia Dong was suddenly very touched and also a little sad. If her mother was still alive, would she also like to flip through her old photos and reminisce about the past? Mom, I'm so envious of little Jing. She has a mother who loves her so much. Bai Jinxiu was stunned. She looked up at Xia Dong. Her smile was sincere, and her eyes seemed to be shining with tears. After a moment of contemplation, she remembered her background. In this world, perhaps all maternal love was the same. Bai Jinxiu looked at her, and the ice in her heart slowly began to melt. The girl in front of her lost her mother at a very young age. Now, she was the woman her son loved the most. As a mother, why not try to accept her? She began to have such thoughts in her heart. Bai Jinxiu's face was expressionless, and her tone was indifferent. In the future, I will also be your mother. Thank you, Mom. Xia Dong's eyes were covered with a layer of water, but her smile was very bright. She pointed to a new photo. Mom, what's the origin of this photo? This photo was the first full frontal photo of Bailey Jing so far. Xia Dong also saw her appearance clearly at this time. Her facial features were a little similar to Bai Jinxiu's. She had a high nose, big eyes, and a delicate chin. When she laughed, she revealed her snow-white teeth. There was a heroic spirit between her eyebrows. She was different from Su Yunqian's noble and elegant, and also not like Su Xingqian's sweet and cute. She was heroic, straightforward, and bright. In the photo, she and Daodu were sitting side by side on the grass. Daodu was licking her face with its long tongue. She hugged Daodu's head with one hand and bloomed with a bright smile. Bai Jinxiu complained. This photo was taken 2 years ago. After that, she said that she wanted to travel the world and ran away from home. Xia Dong was surprised. Little Jing actually ran away from home? Isn't that so? At that time, her grandmother and I were so angry. Bailey Han saw that they were chatting so happily and was happy. He sat quietly at the side and did not interrupt, allowing the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law to chat. On the other side, the person they were chatting with, Bailey Jing, was already standing at the door of Su Xingqian's ward. She was wearing a pair of ripped jeans and a white t-shirt with a skull on it. Her wine-red hair was permed into big waves and fixed into a bun on top of her head. Her skin was a healthy wheat color, and she was full of energy and vitality. She flew toward Su Xingqian. Xingqian, I'm back. Are you okay? Su Xingqian stared blankly at her, pouncing on him, and asked in disbelief. You are little Jing. That's right. Bailey Jing winked playfully. What, you don't recognize me? How did your skin become so dark? She did not expect that Bailey Jing, who grew up with her, would become so dark that even she could not recognize her. It's from the sun. When I was in Africa, I was under the scorching sun every day. I was lucky that I didn't become like coal. Bailey Jing grinned, not caring about her skin color at all. Come and see. Hongcha 866. Chapter 192. Xingchen, what happened to you? Why is your face wrapped in gauze? Bailey Jing was on her way home when she received a call from Su Xingchen. Hearing that she was hospitalized, she immediately abandoned her family and rushed over. Su Xingchen's eyes welled up with tears. Little Jing, I'm disfigured. Disfigured? No way, it's so serious. Bailey Jing pulled out a tissue and carefully wiped her face. Xingchen, tell me what happened. Su Xingchen sobbed, crying very sadly. As he cried, he shook his head, but he didn't say anything. Bailey Jing was so anxious that she stomped her feet, and her heart ached. All right, Xingchen, don't cry. Once you cry, my heart will be in chaos. When Bailey Jing was young, she often played with Su Xingchen and Bailey Fei Yan. Both of them were delicate girls. Every time they cried, she couldn't do anything to them. No matter what conditions they put forward, she would comply. Because of this, she was often scolded by her eldest brother and second brother, calling her a pighead. Woo-woo, hearing her say this, Su Xingchen cried even harder, crying as hard as he could. The more chaotic her heart was, the better. Bailey Jing was at a loss. Just like when she was young, she gently coaxed, "Be good, don't cry. If there's a problem, tell me and we'll slowly solve it, okay?" Su Xingchen saw that it was about time and sobbed, "Little Jing, my face was disfigured by acid. Even if I do plastic surgery, there's no way to restore my previous appearance." Bailey Jing's heart ached. How did your face get splashed with acid? Who wants to harm you? Su Xingchen sobbed, "I can't say." Bailey Jing was about to die from anxiety. Why can't you say it? Could it be that the other party is so powerful that even your Su family can't do anything to him? Su Xingchen looked at her with teary eyes. "No, little Jing, I just don't want to destroy the harmony in your family." Bailey Jing frowned. "How is it related to my family?" Su Xingchen covered her mouth and cried, not willing to say more. "Aya, you're really making me anxious." Bailey Jing pulled out another tissue and handed it to her. "Xingchen, I'm begging you, please tell me." She shook her head and refused to budge. The Bailey saw her crying so sadly and felt bad. He didn't ask further, but he secretly made up his mind to find out the truth. After comforting Su Xingchen for a long time, she finally stopped crying. She wiped the corners of her eyes and said, "Xiao Jing, I was originally very happy that you came back. I didn't mean to cry, so don't take it to heart." Bailey Jing patted her shoulder. "Silly, what are you talking about? We're good friends. Why would we mind those things?" Su Xingchen smiled. "Thank you, little Jing. When my face is better, you, me and Fei Yan, the three of us will get together." "Yes, definitely. Rest well and don't think too much." After her reminder, Bailey Jing immediately had an idea. Since she didn't want to say it, then she would ask Fei Yan. Fei Yan and Xingchen had such a good relationship, so he must know what happened. "Xiao Jing, you just came back. You should spend more time with your grandparents. I'm already very touched that you came to see me as soon as you got off the plane." "You're talking nonsense again, aren't you? You're my best friend, so of course I have to care about you." The two chatted for a while before Su Xingchen urged Bailey Jing to hurry home to accompany her family. Bailey Jing thought that she still had something to ask Bailey Fei Yan, so she didn't stay any longer. When she left the hospital, she called Bailey Fei Yan. That girl happened to be nearby and was planning to visit Su Xingchen, so the two of them agreed to meet at a coffee shop near the hospital. Bailey Fei Yan was wearing a light blue dress, holding a bouquet of flowers in her hand and a straw hat on her head, looking fresh and beautiful. Bailey Jing, who was sitting in the coffee shop, recognized her at a glance. She waved her hand and called out to her, "Fei Yan, I'm here." "Oh my God, Xiao Jing, how did you become like this?" Bailey Fei Yan was shocked. Xiao Jing's skin was fairer than hers and Xingchen's back then. She didn't expect it to turn into a wheat color now. "Oh, I got tanned in Africa." Bailey Jing waved her hand carelessly and asked her to sit down. She pushed the drink that she had ordered in advance in front of her and smiled. "This is your favorite coconut juice. I didn't remember wrongly, did I?" Yes, I didn't expect you to remember. Xiao Jing, we haven't seen each other for 2 years." Bailey Fei Yan took a sip of the coconut juice and held her face sadly. "When you came back, some things had changed. Xingchen has become like this now, sigh. Bailey Jing's smile disappeared and she asked seriously, Fei Yan, what happened to Xingchen? Why did it become like this? Bailey Fei Yan blinked her eyes in surprise. She didn't tell you? She doesn't want to tell me. Hurry up and tell me. She frowned. Isn't this not very good? Xingchen might not want you to know. Bailey Jing leaned forward and looked into her eyes seriously. Fei Yan, we are all friends of Xingchen. We should care about her, right? Yes. Then it's only right that I want to know what happened to her, isn't it? Yes. Then hurry up and tell me. Bailey Fian bit his lip and hesitated for a moment before nodding his head heroically. All right then, I'll tell you. But you must not tell Xingchen that I was the one who told you. Don't worry, I won't betray you. Bailey Fei Yan thought for a while and said, Actually, this matter has something to do with your sister-in-law. My sister-in-law? Bailey Jing suddenly realized. You mean Xia Dong? Yes. How does this have anything to do with her? Bailey Fei Yan frowned. This matter is very complicated. Let me think about how I should tell you. After organizing her thoughts, she continued, Xiao Jing, you should know that Xingchen has always liked your brother, right? I know. Didn't I matchmake the two of them in the past? Bailey Fei Yan sighed. This is where the problem lies. Xingchen likes my cousin, but he is engaged to Su Yunqian. According to this development, nothing will happen. But Xia Dong suddenly appeared. She deliberately got close to my cousin, and Su Yunqian felt threatened. She actually bribed the culprit to kidnap Xia Dong and sold her to a remote mountain village. I heard that she was injected with drugs. She paused and took a sip of her drink. Then she continued, Xia Dong also had a fiancé called Mika Kito. I heard that he is very capable. In the end, he rescued Xia Dong and investigated her kidnapping. She paused deliberately. Do you know what happened next? This was more interesting than a novel or a television show. Bailey Jing was listening intently when she suddenly stopped. She patted her forehead and said, Stop keeping me in suspense. Hurry up and tell me. Su Yunqian, this woman is really not simple. She blamed everything on Xingchen, so Xingchen was retaliated against by Mika Kito. Bailey Jing was shocked. Was it Mika Kito who ruined Xingchen's appearance? No, Mika Kito found a few male prostitutes to humiliate Xingchen. He even took a video of her and injected her with drugs. He wanted to completely destroy Xingchen. Bailey Jing was shocked. She felt sorry for Xingchen and was stunned for a while. Then she asked, What happened after that? After that, Xingchen's scandal spread like wildfire. She had a nervous breakdown and escaped from the drug rehabilitation center. She took the acid and planned to take revenge on Su Yunqian. She didn't expect Xia Dong to snatch the acid from her and ruin Xingchen's appearance. Bailey Jing was heartbroken and angry. How could Xingchen be so stupid? Also, if Xia Dong ruined Xingchen's appearance, why wasn't she punished by the law? Bailey Fei Yan sighed. Did you forget? I just said that Mika Kito is very capable. She cleared Xia Dong's name. The police believed that Xia Dong acted in self-defense and Xingchen was the one who deliberately hurt her. So, after Xingchen was discharged from the hospital, she would immediately be locked up. Bailey Jing was an experienced and knowledgeable person. But when the conspiracy happened right beside her, she was still shocked. She didn't expect that so many tragic things would happen to the friend she cherished since she was young. She was angry at Xingchen for being so stupid to take revenge on Su Yunqian with acid. At the same time, she hated Su Yunqian for framing Su Xingchen for kidnapping her. She hated Mika Kito for being too ruthless. She hated Xia Dong for destroying Su Xingchen's appearance. Bailey Jing's face was gloomy. She leaned against the chair like a stone statue. Xiao Jing, are you okay? Bailey Fei Yan waved in front of her eyes worriedly. Bailey Jing's voice was a little cold. I'm fine, Fei Yan. I have something to do. I'll go back first. She was in a bad mood. Very bad mood. Did Big Brother know how evil Xia Dong was? How could he marry her? Fei Yan, the drinks are on me. I'm in a hurry. She stood up and strode out. She wanted to go back quickly and expose that woman's ugly face in front of Big Brother. Bailey Fei Yan seemed to know what she was thinking. He shouted at her back. Xiao Jing, are you going back to ask Xiaodong? Calm down. You don't have any evidence now. Even if you ask her, she won't admit it. Bailey Jing stopped in her tracks. Without turning back, she strode out. Because she walked too fast, she bumped into a man who had just walked in. She hurriedly turned back. Sorry. The man who was bumped into smiled gently. It's okay. She forced a smile, nodded, and turned to leave. Be careful. Before the man could finish his sentence, there was a loud bang. Bailey Jing had already collided with the waiter standing behind her. The waiter's tray fell to the ground with a loud bang, and the iced lemon juice in the cup spilled all over her body. Her white t-shirt turned orange. The most embarrassing thing was that the spot where the juice was splashed was on her chest. The handsome waiter apologized with a red face. Bailey Jing shrugged nonchalantly. It's okay. I wasn't careful when I walked. How much is this cup of lemon juice? I'll compensate you. The waiter said there was no need. The lobby manager also rushed over and apologized sincerely. At Song Shu 566. Chapter 193. Bailey Jing didn't want to waste any time. She walked out of the coffee shop and onto the road after settling things peacefully. A man's voice rang in her ears. Miss, are you planning to leave dressed like this? Bailey Jing turned around to see the man she'd bumped into at the coffee shop. She frowned, not liking the way he was hitting on her. Is there anything else? Lin Yi found the sudden change in attitude quite amusing. It seemed that she'd misunderstood his good intentions. He smiled gently. I just wanted to tell you that I just bought a dress. I was going to give it to my mother. Although it's not suitable for her age, it's better than you wearing dirty clothes. Bailey Jing lowered her head. Only then did she notice that the orange-yellow object had become very conspicuous. Furthermore, its position was very awkward. She smiled embarrassedly. I'll have to trouble you then. Lin Yi smiled. Let's use the coffee shop's washroom. You go first. I'll go get the clothes from the car. I'll be back soon. Bailey Jing thanked him sincerely. She used the washroom and changed into the dress Lin Yi had given her. The price tag was still there, and she took a look at the price tag. It was 5 digits, and she memorized it in her heart. The color of the dress was simple and elegant, and it fit her well. She let her hair down, letting her wine-red hair fall over her shoulders. Lin Yi was waiting for her in the lobby, smiling warmly when she came out. It suits you. She'd looked like a delinquent girl at first, but now she looked like a lady from a rich family. Thank you, I'm Bailey Jing. What's your name? Bailey Jing stretched out her hand. He shook her hand politely. Lin Yi. Lin Yi, can I trouble you to give me your name card? I'll pay you for the dress some other day. Lin Yi smiled. No need. It's fate that brought us together. She glared at him. Just give it to me. Bailey Jing, don't take people's things for free. All right then, here's my name card. Lin Yi smiled and handed her his name card. All right, now that I have your number, I will contact you. Thank you for today. I'm in a hurry, so I'll thank you another day. Bailey Jing put away the business card and said goodbye to him with a smile. Bailey Jing. Lin Yi's lips curled up into a smile. If he remembered correctly, Yoon had a sister called Bailey Jing. Could it be her? Bailey quietly got into the taxi. On the way home, he kept thinking about what Bailey Fei Yen said. If what she said is true, then Xiaodong is not a simple woman. First, she has Mika Keto in her hands, and now she has her brother. Su Yunqian wasn't a good person either. She looked as elegant as a goddess, but she was actually vicious and merciless. She was really disgusting. At lunchtime, the old madam glanced at her 3 great-grandchildren one by one, feeling a little conflicted. It was the first time there were so many children at the Bailey's table. The 3 little guys sat next to each other. Xia Dong sat next to Xiao Guai so that it was easier to take care of her. When the dishes were all served, the servant served rice to everyone. Everyone waited for the old madam to start eating. The old madam said, "Everyone, let's eat." Xiao Guai blinked her big eyes and called out to all the elders in her baby voice. Great-grandpa, great-grandma, eat. Grandma, eat. Daddy, mommy, brother. Eat. Xiao Guai also wants to eat. The old madam couldn't stop smiling. Good girl, look at our Gigai's sweet mouth. Gigai, come sit next to great-grandma, okay? Xiao Guai looked up at Xia Dong. Xia Dong nodded at her and she smiled. Okay, I want to sit next to great-grandma. Xia Dong carried her to the old madam's side. The old madam patted her head and smiled kindly. Gigai, what do you want to eat? Great-grandma will get it for you. Xiao Guai said obediently, I don't want great-grandma to get it for me. If great-grandma is tired, I can get it myself. I can even help great-grandma get food. Oh, how old are you? You already know how to dote on great-grandma. The old madam smiled. She doted on this soft and tender little girl to the bone. She couldn't help but pity her. How could such a cute little girl contract such a terrible disease? Xiao Guai was not only obedient and cute, she was also very filial. When she saw the old madam reaching for a dish more often, she would reach out her arm to help her get food. The old madam praised her for being sensible. The old master sat in his wheelchair and ate in silence. He ate whatever the servants fed him. His eyes were unfocused and he didn't respond to anyone who spoke to him. Only when the old madam spoke to him would he raise his eyelids. However, he would only glance at her before lowering his head again. Xia Dong heard from Bailey Han that the old master had Alzheimer's disease and had lost the ability to speak. He could only say a few simple words. His memory was chaotic and he often mistook people for others or couldn't remember anything at all. Because of the presence of the three children, the atmosphere at the dining table was harmonious. Xia Dong also heaved a sigh of relief. After the meal, the servants wanted to push the old master to the back garden for a walk. Xia Dong offered to accompany the old master, and the three children also volunteered to follow. Bailey Han was naturally worried about letting Xiao Guai go with them. The old madam smiled and patted Xiao Guai's head. Gigai, stay with great-grandma, okay? Okay. Xiao Guai nodded obediently. The old madam picked her up and placed her on her lap. Come, great-grandma will tell you a story. Xia Dong pushed the old master to the pavilion and fanned him with a cattail leaf fan. He was in good spirits now. He pointed at the grape trellis and babbled intermittently. No one knew what he was saying. Xiao Bao blinked. Mom, does great-grandpa want to eat grapes? Xiaoyi knocked on his forehead. Idiot, great-grandpa wants to go under the grape trellis. He used to like to stay under the grape trellis. Oh, so that's how it is. Xia Dong was still trying to guess the old master's intentions. She didn't expect her son to give her the answer. She bent down and smiled. Grandpa, sit tight. We'll go to the grape trellis now. Ah! The old master nodded. It seemed that Xiaoyi had guessed correctly. After pushing the old master to the grape trellis, he quieted down. He tilted his head as if he was going to sleep. Xia Dong instructed the servant to bring a blanket over. After covering the old master with the blanket, Xia Dong slowly fanned the cattail leaf fan and said softly to the children, Xiaoyi, Xiaobao, great-grandpa is asleep. Go back to your rooms and rest. Mom, we'll stay here with you. Xia Dong blinked. How about this? Bring the chessboard over and play chess here. Xiaoyi smiled. Xiaobao, let's play Gamoku. The two little guys really ran back to get the chessboard. They laid it out on the stone table and began to play chess. A cool breeze blew past and the grape leaves rustled. The September sun was less scorching and more warm. The light shone through the layers of grape leaves and shone on the limestone road. It was peaceful and serene. Xia Dong fanned herself and looked up at the children playing chess from time to time. Her eyes were full of smiles. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps could be heard. Xia Dong turned her head and saw a pretty figure approaching from afar. The person who came was tall and slender. She had long wine-red hair and was wearing an elegant plain dress. She wore a pair of canvas shoes and a pair of brown sunglasses on the bridge of her nose. Her actions revealed a candid temperament. Xia Dong inwardly guessed that she should be Bailey Jing. Xiaoyi also heard the footsteps. He looked up and a bright smile appeared on his face. He jumped down from the stone stool and ran over. Aunt Jing! Darling, you've grown so tall. Bailey Jing smiled brightly as she carried Xiaoyi and kissed his cheeks several times. Aunt Jing, Why are you only back now? I missed you so much. Oh, darling has suddenly changed. He's no longer the little old man from before. Bailey Jing teased with a smile. In the past, every time she called her family, Mommy would complain that Xiao Yi was too mature. But now, he was acting like a child. Aunt Jing, don't laugh at me. I'm happy. I'm not laughing. Bailey Jing carried Xiao Yi to Xiaodong and put Xiao Yi down. She took off her sunglasses and squatted down to hug the sleeping old master. She kissed him on the cheek and said softly, "Grandpa, your Xiao Jing is back." Old master was in a deep sleep. Bailey Jing adjusted the blanket for him and stood up. Her gaze landed on Xiaodong. Xiaodong smiled and extended her right hand. "Xiao Jing, hello. I'm Xiaodong." Bailey Jing didn't take her hand. Instead, she stared at her meaningfully. "You're the woman my brother married?" Xiaodong retracted her hand. Her smile didn't change. "Yes." Bailey Jing raised her eyebrows. Her lips curled into a mocking smile. "My brother's taste in wives is getting worse and worse. Each one is worse than the last." The smile on Xiaodong's face froze. She didn't say anything. Xiao Bao jumped down from the stone stool and said unhappily, "Hey, what do you mean by that?" Xiao Yi was also a little unhappy. "Aunt Jing, do you have some misunderstanding about my mommy?" "Xiao Yi, why are you calling her mommy?" Bailey Jing glanced at Xiao Bao. He looked very cute when he was angry. He could compete with Xiao Yi. Upon closer inspection, their eyebrows were somewhat similar. Little Wingzy shrugged helplessly. "That's because she's my mommy." Bailey Jing widened her eyes in surprise. "Wait, didn't your mommy pass away?" Bailey Jing couldn't be blamed. She often traveled around the world. It wasn't easy for her family to contact her. Moreover, they didn't tell her that Xiao Yi's biological mother was Xiaodong. She didn't know any more information about Xiao Yi's biological mother than Bailey Han. Then this child, Bailey Jing pointed at Xiao Bao. "He's my biological brother." Xiao Yi shrugged again. "So, Aunt Jing, you must have some misunderstanding about my mommy." Attention, Hongcha 866. Chapter 194. Bailey Jing's beautiful brows furrowed. This matter was getting more and more complicated. She didn't want to convict Xiaodong yet. She wanted to wait until she figured things out. She sized up Xiaodong and said lightly, "You should know my name, so I won't introduce myself. I'll go in first." Xiaodong looked at her back as she walked away. Her eyes darkened. Bailey Jing didn't like her. It seemed that her position in this family was still very awkward. Bailey Han sat on the sofa and called Lu Zihao to explain some things. A beautiful figure rushed towards him. "Big brother, I'm back." He hurriedly ended the call and hugged Bailey Jing, who rushed over. His eyes were full of smiles. "You little girl, you still know how to come back?" Bailey Jing acted like a little girl and acted coquettishly in his arms. "Aren't I back now? Big brother, did you miss me?" Bailey Han poked her forehead with his finger and his eyes were full of affection. "Yes, I missed you, you heartless girl. When will you come back?" "Ah, big brother, I missed you so much." Bailey Jing suddenly hugged his neck and smiled brightly. "Okay, you're still acting like a child." Bailey Han touched her hair. "Grandma and Mom are upstairs. Go and see them." "Okay. I'll go up first." Bailey Jing kissed him on the cheek and ran upstairs like a rabbit. Bailey Han smiled helplessly, his eyes full of affection. If you asked which family's daughter cared the most about her image, the answer would definitely be Bailey's family. Although they had just met at the airport in the morning, old Madame Gu and Bai Jinxiu still smiled from ear to ear when they saw Bailey Jing. They hugged her affectionately for a while. After the excitement, Bailey Jing saw Xiao Guai sitting quietly on the small fabric sofa and looking at her curiously with a pair of crystal-like eyes. Bailey Jing also looked at Xiao Guai in surprise and asked the old madam, "Grandma, this little girl is so cute. Whose child is she?" Old madam patted her forehead. "Look at me, I was so happy that I forgot to introduce her. Xiao Jing, this is your eldest brother's daughter, Xiao Guai." Old madam patted Xiao Guai's head and smiled kindly. "Gigai, this is your Aunt Jing. Hello, Aunt Jing. Xiao Guai blinked his big eyes and smiled generously, revealing two cute little dimples. So cute. Bailey squatted in front of her and couldn't help but reach out to stroke her soft cheeks. He smiled gently. Your name is Xiao Guai. How old are you this year? Xiao Guai's face was distorted by her rubbing, but she wasn't angry at all. She replied softly, I'm 4.5 years old this year. Wow, so cute. Come, let Aunt Jing give you a kiss. Bailey's family finally had a little princess. Sob sob, she was so happy. Bailey Jing kissed Xiao Guai's soft cheeks. Xiao Guai giggled. Aunt Jing, you're so beautiful. Oh, little girl, you have such a sweet mouth. Bailey Jing beamed and couldn't help but rub her cheeks again. Her abnormally pale little face was rubbed red. Old Madam shook her head helplessly. Jing girl, if you don't dare to enter, let go of Xiao Guai. She's not in good health and can't stand your torment. Bailey Jing heard and quickly let go of her hand. She looked carefully. Xiao Guai's skin was abnormally white and her small body was a little thin. She asked with heartache, What's wrong with Gigai? Bai Jinxiu coughed heavily. Bailey Jing immediately realized that she couldn't talk about it in front of the child and quickly changed the topic. Xiao Guai's health wasn't good and she quickly became tired. After she fell asleep, Old Madam asked the servant to send her back to her room. Only then did she tell Bailey Jing about Xiao Guai's condition. Bailey Jing came back to her senses after a long while. Her eyes were red. Xiao Guai is so pitiful. How can such a young child suffer so much? Bailey Jing had been sympathetic since she was young. She was the kind of person who would give money to others when she saw them begging on the street. How could Bai Jinxiu not understand her? She helplessly patted the back of her hand and comforted her. Don't be sad. Fortunately, Xia Dong is pregnant now. When she gives birth to the baby, she can save Gigai. Xia Dong is pregnant? Bailey Jing's heart tightened. She thought that it was fortunate that she didn't act rashly. If she caused Xia Dong to die because of Xingchen, her brother would hate her to death. Moreover, she would indirectly cause Xiao Guai's death. Then her sins would be grave. Yes, it's been more than 3 months. Bailey Jing calmed down and frowned. She said, Mommy, Xiao Yi's biological mother is Xia Dong. What's going on? Didn't you say that Xiao Yi's biological mother abandoned Xiao Yi and my brother and eloped with someone else? Then she died in a car accident, right? Bai Jinxiu looked at Old Madam awkwardly. Back then, Old Madam made up such a lie to cover up the truth and deceived Ah Han, Xiao Yi and Xiao Jing. Now she didn't know whether she should explain it or not. Of course, Old Madam knew what her daughter-in-law was troubled about. She coughed and said, This matter is more complicated. Back then, when you were studying in England, we didn't want you to worry, so we didn't tell you the truth. Old Madam briefly recounted Xia Dong's experience. However, she also concealed some of the truth, which was related to Bailey Han. Bailey Jing listened to everything. After a while she said, I suddenly admire Xia Dong. Bai Jinxiu poked her forehead in annoyance. Admire her for what? Stealing a child? Or making a mess of her own reputation? You'd better behave yourself. Mommy, let me finish. Bailey Jing hugged her arm. Think about it. Xia Dong raised 2 children by herself. Xiao Guai even had that kind of illness. She was under a lot of pressure. With my brother's bad temper, don't you know what he will do and say when someone he doesn't like gets close to him? Xia Dong must have suffered a lot. Although Bai Jinxiu felt uncomfortable, when she thought about it carefully, it made sense. The corners of her lips curled up unconsciously. She taught Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai quite well. The knot in Old Madam's heart slowly disappeared. She sighed and said, I don't want to say anything more about them. I just want our family to be safe and happy. Bailey Jing held Bai Jinxiu in one hand and Old Madam in the other. She smiled and said, Grandma, don't worry. Our family will definitely be fine. Let me tell you a piece of good news. I talked to second brother on the phone a few days ago. He said that he and his former classmate started a high-tech company, and it's officially operating now. Second brother is also working very hard now. Bai Jinxiu's expression was indifferent. She didn't have much affection for Bailey Yun, this illegitimate son. Old Madam didn't like Bailey Yoon in the past, mostly because he was unruly and unrestrained. Now that he was willing to work hard, she felt a little relieved and nodded repeatedly. The three of them were chatting happily upstairs when Bailey Han and Xia Dong brought the sleeping old master upstairs. Two more people chatted with each other. Xia Dong sat at the side and listened to Bailey Jing talk about the interesting things that happened when they traveled around the world. Her thoughts drifted away. She thought of the confusion when she first went abroad, Mika Kito, and her foster father who was far away in Italy. Her phone suddenly rang, breaking the harmonious atmosphere. Xia Dong quickly picked up the phone and smiled apologetically. "Sorry, I have to take this call." She pressed the answer button and hurried out. Bailey Han's eyes darkened. He caught a flash of panic in her eyes just now and suspected that it was Mika Kito who called. Xia Dong hurried to the empty balcony and called out softly into the phone, "Brother Shen." Mika Kito's cold voice sounded in her ear. "I want to see you." She bit her lip. "When?" "Now." His tone was domineering and irrefutable. She paused and asked, "Where shall we meet?" He said coldly, "I'll pick you up at the old mansion." "No need," she said hurriedly. "I'll go out. Tell me the place." "Are you so worried that Bailey's family will find out about our relationship?" Mika Kito's car was parked on the road outside Bailey's old mansion. His eyes were surging with anger as he stared at the luxurious manor outside the window. "No, I just don't want to cause unnecessary misunderstandings. Brother Shin, I'm sorry." Her heart was full of guilt. He paused and tried to suppress his anger. "I'm outside the mansion now. You can come out." Brother Shen, before she could finish speaking. He had already hung up the phone. She stared blankly at the phone in her hand and touched her forehead helplessly. She turned and walked downstairs. Bailey Han appeared from behind the wall. His eyes were as dark as the sea as he looked at her back. "Butler, if anyone asks, just say that I'm in the garden." Xia Dong instructed the butler before she left. "Okay." A black Maybach stopped by the roadside. Xia Dong opened the door and sat in the front passenger seat. In the driver's seat, Mika Kito was expressionless. A storm surged in his deep eyes as he stared at her without blinking. She forced a smile. "Brother Shin, have you settled the matter in Japan?" Mika Kito did not answer her question. Instead, he said stiffly, "Why did you marry him?" She lowered her head and did not dare to look into his eyes. She said softly, "A lot of things happened while you were away." Bailey Han found out about Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai's identities. He also found out about what happened 5 years ago. He interrupted her angrily. "So you gave yourself to him?" She smiled bitterly. "No, I think I like him." Mika Kito suddenly grabbed her shoulders and forced her to look into his eyes. "Xia, look at me. Don't be blinded by his impulse." She shook her head. "No, Brother Shin. I think I really like." He suddenly lowered his head and kissed her on the lips, stopping her from saying the words she didn't have time to say. Bailey Han was standing at the entrance of the mansion and happened to see this scene. He immediately exuded a cold aura and his dark eyes were raging with anger. Attention, Xinwu 799. Chapter 195. Xia Dong pushed his chest with all her might. Mika Kito hugged her even tighter. His gaze was cold and without a trace of lust. He looked past her head and looked at Bailey Han, who was standing at the entrance of the manor. The moment he ran to the car, Mika Kito pressed the window button. The glass slowly rose and completely blocked Bailey Han's line of sight. Xia Dong bit Mika Kito's lips forcefully. Bai Tang Shen abruptly let go of her and stepped on the accelerator. The Maybach and Hertz sped off. Bailey Han ran over, but he missed. Xia Dong's eyes welled up with tears. "Brother Shin, you're too much." "I'm too much?" "It's been 5 years. Don't tell me you still don't understand my feelings?" Mika Kito's cold gaze was fixed on the road ahead. He was very agitated and sped up. Xia Dong's face was pale. She covered her abdomen with one hand and clutched the seatbelt with the other. Her voice was trembling. "Brother Shin, don't drive so fast." Mika Kito ignored her words and shouted agitatedly, "Xia Dong, I love you." I've loved you for 5F king years. How can you ignore my feelings and throw yourself into another man's arms? Xia Dong looked at the man who was as violent as a lion in shock. He said he loved her? She thought he only treated her as a younger sister. Her shocked expression made him even angrier. He slammed on the brakes, and the friction between the tires and the concrete made an ear-piercing screech. He held her shoulders and shouted at her. You idiot! If I didn't love you, why would I accompany you to China? She didn't know how to answer him. She was an idiot. She thought Siki was just gossiping and daydreaming when he said he loved her. She didn't expect it to be true. Brother Shin, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I've always treated you as my big brother. Mika Kito's heart ached. He held her arm tighter and tighter. Big brother? Just big brother? I'm sorry. Other than these 3 words, she did not know what else to say. He held her hand stiffly, like a stone statue, as if there was no life in it. In the narrow space, the air was suffocating. Her heart clenched in pain. She held his hand and slowly removed it from her arm. Tears streamed down her face. Brother Shin, forget me. You'll find a better girl. She grabbed the handle of the car. With a click, the car door opened, just like the sound of his heart breaking. She turned to leave, but he grabbed her arm. His eyes were as gloomy as the sky before a storm. Xia Dong, from the moment you stepped out of this car, we have nothing to do with each other anymore. He was gambling, using himself as the stake. She was stunned. She would never forget that 5 years ago, when she was in danger, he descended like a god and saved her from disaster. How did they end up like this? Why did she have to make a choice? Her tears fell even harder. After a long time, she choked and said word by word, Brother Shin, no matter what happens in the future, I will always remember you. I will always be grateful to you. You will always be my big brother. Big brother. He was only her big brother. He grabbed her arm and refused to let go. Xia Dong, do you know what you're doing? Is Bailey Han worth it for you to treat him like this? What did Bailey Han do to make her, who did not believe in marriage, step into the grave of marriage? He made her do this without hesitation. Tears streamed down her face. She shook her head. I don't know. I just don't want to regret. It was Bailey Han who made her understand what love was. It was Bailey Han who gave her the courage to step into marriage. They had said that they would face it together. She could not abandon him. There were very few cars on the road. As far as the eye could see, only the 2 of them were in a deadlock by the roadside. He grabbed her arm and she stood stiffly at the door. His expression was getting colder and colder. Something like crystals seemed to shatter in his eyes. Her heart throbbed in pain, but she held it in and did not say anything. After a long time, a car sped past them. The whistling wind lifted a corner of her skirt. He slowly let go of her hand. She took a step back. The car door slammed shut. Meiba and he sped away and disappeared from her sight in the blink of an eye. Xia Dong squatted on the ground and cried bitterly. The old mansion was built halfway up the mountain. Now she was standing at the foot of the mountain. She wanted to hail a car to go up, but not a single one passed by. She took out her phone and hesitated whether to ask Bailey Han to pick her up. However, she was also worried that Ah Han would misunderstand her. What should she do? If she walked up, there were still a few kilometers to go. After thinking about it, she decided to ask Bailey Han to pick her up. She thought that as long as she explained it clearly, he would definitely believe her. She dialed Bailey Han's phone, but no one answered for a long time. She did not give up and dialed 2 more times. Finally he picked up. She was delighted and said, Ah Han, can you come and pick me up? I'm at the foot of the mountain now. There was a pause on the other side of the phone. Old Madam's cold voice came through. What kind of wife are you? Your husband has fainted, and you're still having fun outside. Xia Dong said agitatedly. Ah Han fainted? How is he? Old Madam said angrily. You still know how to care about him. Grandma, Before she could finish speaking, the phone beeped with a busy tone. Xia Dong was burning with anxiety. She did not know what had happened to Bailey Han and why he had fainted. However, when she heard Old Madam's anger, she knew that his condition must be very serious. She did not dare to think too much about it. She lifted her skirt and ran up the mountain. Fortunately, she was wearing flats, so she was not too tired from running. However, she was worried about the baby in her belly, so she did not dare to run too fast. After running for nearly 10 minutes, she saw a car driving over from afar. It approached from afar until it stopped in front of her. An unfamiliar face stuck out from the window. "Young mistress, old madam asked me to pick you up." Xiaodong said, "Thank you," and hurriedly got into the car. The car drove into the manor. She hurriedly got out of the car and walked into the living room. She happened to see the butler sending Suja downstairs. She hurriedly went up to him and asked, "Dr. Su, how is Ahan?" Suja looked at her meaningfully. When he was driving to Bailey's house just now, he saw this woman and a man tugging at each other by the roadside. Although it was not convenient for him to say too much as an outsider, he still could not help but want to say a few words on behalf of Ahan. "Xiaodong, we can be considered old acquaintances. I want to remind you that Ahan loves you very much. He loves you with his own life. Please cherish him. He has not woken up yet. You can go upstairs to see him." Xiaodong was stunned. She did not quite understand what he was implying. However, when she heard that Ahan had not woken up yet, she was very worried. What happened to him? Why did he suddenly faint? It's not convenient for me to say this. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave first. Xiaodong returned to the room. Old Madam, Bai Jinxiu, and Bailey Jing were all there. According to the butler, the 3 children had been persuaded to go back to their own rooms. When Old Madam saw her, her gaze turned cold. "Where did you go just now?" Xiaodong glanced at Bailey Han, who was lying on the bed, and replied, "A friend came to visit me. We chatted for a while at the foot of the mountain." "What kind of friend must call you out of the house for a chat?" Old Madam's voice was harsh. She had just heard from the security guard at the gate that he had seen Xiaodong go out and get into a car parked by the roadside. Xiaodong's fingers clenched tightly. "It's Mika Kito. He came back from Japan. When he heard that I was married, he specially came to visit me. I was afraid of causing a misunderstanding, so I did not invite him in." Old Madam said angrily, "Do you know that Ahan fainted at the gate? He must have seen something and was so angry that he fainted. Tell me, what did you do?" Xiaodong felt terrible. She looked at the unconscious Bailey Han. He must have misunderstood. That was why he was so angry. "I'm asking you a question." Old Madam stomped her crutch hard. "We didn't do anything." Xiaodong's nose was burning. She felt that she had no self-respect at all. She lowered her eyes and held back her tears. Bai Jinxiu's expression was very ugly. She had just changed her opinion of Xiaodong, and she did not expect this to happen. Bailey Jing's gaze swept over Xiaodong. She hugged Old Madam's arm and gently persuaded, "Grandma, don't be angry. Be careful not to hurt your body. When Big Brother wakes up, everything will be clear. Grandma, you're tired too. Let me help you back to your room to rest, okay?" Old Madam sighed and looked at Bailey Han with heartache. She said, "Bailey, take good care of young master." With that, she walked out of the room with Bailey Jing's help without even looking at Xiaodong. The sound of the door closing came from behind. Only she and Bailey Han were left in the room. She bit her lip, forced back her tears, and sat by Bailey Han's bed. His handsome eyebrows were slightly furrowed, and his thin lips were tightly pursed. He seemed to be in pain. She held his hand with heartache and whispered in his ear, "Ahan, I'm so worried. Wake up quickly, okay? If you misunderstand, I'll explain. I've already made it clear to Brother Shen." She whispered a lot and told him everything that had happened between her and Mika Kito, but he was still in a deep sleep and showed no signs of waking up. She stayed by his side the whole time. During this time, the 3 little guys came by once, but they were quickly coaxed away by the servants. Bailey Jing also came by, but she stood quietly behind her without saying a word. In the evening, Bailey Han came back from the company. When he heard that his son had fainted, he quickly went upstairs to visit him. Xiaodong politely called him Dad. He grunted and said, "You're tired too. Go downstairs for dinner and rest for a while." She pursed her lips. "I'm not hungry. I'll stay here with Ahan." Bailey Han's face darkened. "Even if you're not hungry, the baby in your stomach will be. Even if Ahan is awake, He won't want to see you like this. Be good and go downstairs for dinner. Foley Song Shu 566. Chapter 196. Bailey Xiong knew that Xia Dong occupied a very important position in his son's heart. In order to improve their relationship, of course, he had to accept Xia Dong, so he really cared about her. This sentence seemed to be a reprimand, but in fact, it was full of concern. It warmed Xia Dong's heart. I know, Dad. Bailey Xiong's voice softened. Let's go downstairs and eat first. Without Bailey Han at the table, everyone's mood was a little heavy. No one spoke. Bailey Jing looked around and said with a smile, Daddy, I haven't seen you for 2 years. You seem to be younger than before. Bailey Xiong smiled. I'm old. Jing, when do you plan to go to the company to help Daddy? Bailey Jing picked up a piece of braised fish and put it on his plate. She raised her eyebrows and smiled. Daddy, you can ask big brother and second brother for help with the company. I want to do something different. Tell Daddy, what do you want to do? I want to go to the poor mountainous areas to teach. Bailey Xiong almost choked. Before he could express his opinion, Bai Jinxiu frowned and said unhappily, Little Jing, quickly give up on this idea. Aya, let me finish. Bailey Jing sighed helplessly. I won't be there for long. I'm just going to those places to take a look and learn about the situation of those poor schools. Then I'll raise some money for them. The old madam said slowly, Doing charity is a good thing, and I support it. If you want to donate to those schools, I won't stop you, but I won't allow you to do it as a career. Little Jing, you're the eldest miss of our Bailey family. You have to think about our family. You've been willful for so many years, and you can't be willful anymore. Think about what I just said. Bailey Jing said unhappily, I know, Grandma. Bailey Xiong said, Okay, let's eat before the food gets cold. Xia Dong had no appetite. She barely finished half a bowl of rice and left her seat early. After going upstairs, she fetched some hot water and wiped Bailey Han's face and hands with a wet towel. Suddenly, his fingers moved. She held his hand excitedly and called out his name. Ahan. Ahan. His eyelids moved and he slowly opened his eyes. He looked at her blankly, as if he didn't recognize her. Ahan, how are you? Where else do you feel uncomfortable? She helped him sit up and put a pillow behind his back. He looked and asked, Where's Yun Qian? She held her breath and forced an ugly smile. Ahan, do you know who I am? Bailey Han looked at her blankly. He shook his head slowly and asked stubbornly, Where's Yun Qian? Ahan, what's wrong with you? I'm Xia Dong. Xia Dong grabbed his hand excitedly. Are you still angry, so you're pretending not to know me? Hubby, don't be angry. I can explain. Brother Shen came to find me and I told him that I only treat him as my brother. I've already made it clear to him. She explained incoherently, but he pushed her hand away and looked at her coldly. I want to see Yun Qian. Xia Dong couldn't help but cry. Why did this happen? Bailey Jing pushed the door open and entered. She saw Bailey Han sitting at the head of the bed and said in surprise, Brother, you're awake. Xia Dong. Why are you sitting on the ground? Are you okay? Xia Dong secretly wiped her tears and stood up from the ground. With her back facing her, she said, I'm fine, Xiao Jing. Your brother is awake. Please inform Grandma and Dad so that they won't be worried. Bailey Jing could hear that she was still sobbing. She raised her eyebrows in surprise but didn't say anything. She closed the door and went to inform the family. Silence. Complete silence. Xia Dong's shoulders trembled slightly as she slowly controlled her emotions. Bailey Han stared at her coldly and persistently made his request. I want to see Yun Qian. Call her and ask her to come see me. She held his shoulders. Ahan, I beg you. Don't be like this, okay? Go away. I don't know you. He pushed her away again, and because he used too much force, she almost hit the bedside table. His arm swept across, and the cup on top of it fell to the ground with a clatter. The boiling hot tea spilled all over the carpet. Old Madam pushed the door open and entered. She saw this scene and frowned. What's wrong? Xia Dong hurriedly said. It's nothing. I was careless and bumped into the cup. She held her arm, which was scalded by the tea. Very quickly, it turned red and burned with pain. She picked up the teacup and stood sideways, her hand still covering her arm. Bailey Han glanced at the carpet and his gaze gradually fell on her arm. Did you get scalded? Xia Dong smiled. No. Bailey Jing didn't say anything else and focused on his brother. Old Madam went forward and sat beside Bailey Han's bed. She asked gently, Han, do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Bai Jinxiu also stood over. Bailey Han frowned. I'm fine. Grandma, who is this woman? Why is she in our house? His sharp gaze turned to Xia Dong. Xia Dong's heart trembled. Old Madam and the others were stunned. After 2 seconds, Old Madam probed. Han, do you still remember that you're married? Bailey Han's frown deepened. I haven't proposed to Yun Qian yet. How could I marry her? Xia Dong's face turned pale. A terrible thought emerged in her mind. Old Madam and Bai Jinxiu also had the same thought, but they still couldn't believe it. Old Madam paused for a moment before asking, Han, tell Grandma, what year is it now? Year 2007. Bailey Jing's eyes almost fell out. Old Madam and Bai Jinxiu looked at each other and sighed heavily. As expected, Han's memory returned to 5 years ago. Her guess was confirmed. Xia Dong felt as if all the strength in her body had been sucked away. If she hadn't been leaning against the bedside table, she would have collapsed. Grandma, I want to see Yun Qian. Bailey Han's expression was serious, and he looked like he wouldn't give up until he got what he wanted. Old Madam sighed helplessly and turned her eyes to Xia Dong. The implied meaning was obvious. Xia Dong forced a smile and said, Grandma, since Han wants to see Miss Su, let's ask Miss Su to come over. Old Madam nodded and called the servant to get the phone. She personally called the Su family. It was Mrs. Su who picked up. After exchanging some pleasantries, Old Madam said, Huilan, is Yun Qian here? Auntie, Yun Qian is resting upstairs. What's the matter? This? Old Madam was a bit embarrassed. Han suddenly married Xia Dong and didn't give the Su family any explanation. The two families hadn't been in contact for a long time. Suddenly calling Su Yun Qian to visit Han was a bit abrupt. Auntie, if you have something to say, just say it. We'll definitely help if we can. Huilan, it's like this. Han is sick and wants to see Yun Qian. Can you ask Yun Qian to come over? Mrs. Su was silent for a moment. Auntie, Yun Qian is still sad because of Han's marriage. I'm worried that she... Old Madam sighed. I know. If you can't, then forget it. I won't make things difficult for you. How about this, Auntie? I'll ask Yun Qian first and see what she thinks. After more than 10 minutes, Mrs. Su called and said that Su Yun Qian was willing to come over to visit Bailey Han. She would arrive in about an hour. Grandma, Mom, you can go back and rest. I'm fine now. Bailey Han seemed to have just noticed Bailey Jing and asked curiously, Jing, why are you back? Is school on holiday? The corner of Bailey Jing's mouth twitched. She didn't know what other expression to make except for a bitter smile. She patted his shoulder. Brother, you. Sigh, forget it. You should rest well. I'll go upstairs first. Old Madam and the other two left. Bailey Han looked at Xia Dong. Who are you? A new maid hired by the family? Xia Dong admired herself for being able to squeeze out a smile at a time like this. If I say that I'm your wife, would you believe me? Bailey Han's handsome face darkened. He said coldly, Get out. Han, listen to me. Get out. He yelled at her, not listening to her explanation at all. Okay, I'll get out. Her eyes were covered with a layer of mist. She turned around resolutely and walked out of his room. The corridor was empty. She suddenly didn't know where to go. She went downstairs, walked out of the living room, and walked under the grape rack. Sitting on the rattan chair and looking at the stars in the sky, he suddenly felt very tired. In the quiet night, the cool breeze blew the fragrance of flowers. She didn't know how long she had been sitting there, but the scene of Bailey Han proposing to her suddenly appeared in her mind. She remembered his promise, and the sadness in her heart completely disappeared. She suddenly stood up and encouraged herself. Han had just lost his memory again, And there was nothing to be afraid of. She would definitely make him remember her. Dojo. Bei Tangshun was wearing a white judo outfit. He was like a lion that went berserk in the center of the arena, smashing his opponents to the ground one after another. Inside the martial arts hall, there were cries of anguish. Zhang Dao put his hands behind his back and stood at the door with a cold expression. He was slightly worried that his boss couldn't control his emotions and threw him out as well. Come on, come on. Mika Kito was drenched in sweat and got into a fighting stance. The little brothers who were lying on the ground and wailing had tears streaming down their faces. Boss, we can't do it anymore. If we practice with you any longer, we'll be crippled. Suzaku was dressed in a black outfit that accentuated her perfect figure. She crossed her arms and looked coldly at a certain someone who had gone berserk. Mika Kito, if you really want to vent, come drink with me. I guarantee that you'll forget everything once you're drunk. Mika Kito turned her head abruptly. She glared at her viciously. Her eyes were filled with bloodlust. Add Song Shu 566. Chapter 197. The vermilion bird wasn't afraid in the slightest, and her lips curled into a sneer. You don't dare? Mika Kito's voice was cold. I, Mika Kito, dare not do anything. Then come with me. On the top floor. The night wind was blowing and the stars were twinkling. Two tall figures stood by the railing and looked at each other coldly. Vermilion Bird threw a can of beer at Bei Tangshun. Bei Tangshun casually grabbed it and pulled the tab open with a bang. I'll accompany you. Vermilion Bird also opened a can of beer, and with a leap, sat on the 2-meter-high platform. Bei Tangshun also jumped up and sat beside her. The two of them didn't say anything. They raised their heads and gulped down the wine. Soon, they finished the bottle of wine. The empty bottle was thrown to the roof, making a clanking sound. Again. Suzaku took out a can of beer from behind her back and handed it to him. He took the can of beer and glanced at her from the corner of his eye. He saw 2 cans of beer behind her. After drinking the 2 cans of beer, his expression was normal. He said coldly, "It's too boring to drink like this. Why don't we have a competition to see who can drink more?" Suzaku was expressionless. There's a winner and loser in a competition. What are you going to bet? Mika Kito looked at her sharply. Freedom. If you win, I'll give you back your freedom. Suzaku smiled. Okay. If you win, I'll work for you for the rest of my life. The contract she signed with Mika Kito was only for 20 years. Now, she was betting her freedom. 2 pairs of cold and emotionless eyes met. They clinked their cans of beer, signaling the start of the competition. Cans of beer were downed one after another, and empty cans were thrown to the roof one after another. The two of them sat on the high platform like 2 machines, mechanically repeating the action of downing beer. The starlight poured down on them, breeding feelings of loneliness and sadness. After drinking for an unknown amount of time, Vermilion Bird's eyes began to blur. The beer had already risen to her throat. She covered her mouth and burped. Slightly drunk, she said, "Why didn't you kill me back then?" She knew that this man loved Xia Dong to the core. She kidnapped and hurt Xia Dong, but she did not expect that he would spare her life. Mika Kito's eyes were also blurry. He took a sip of beer and said indifferently, "I have an agreement with you." She sneered. Agreement? What's the use of an agreement for a man like you? He was not the kind of person who would abide by an agreement. She had already seen how ruthless he could be in Japan. He turned to look at her. Under the starlight, there was a cold smile on her beautiful face. Her eyes were a little drunk, and there was a charm in her coldness. He had to admit that she was very beautiful. You can take it that I value talent. Her rosy lips curved. She looked at the bright night view of the city and said indifferently, "I won't be grateful to you. Sometimes losing freedom is worse than death." "I know. I don't need your gratitude." He looked into the distance. There was a port, and the lights were shining brightly, guiding the ships out to sea. But the guiding light in his heart had been extinguished. He had loved her for 5 years, but she did not belong to him. The sadness in his heart could not be expressed. It turned into melancholy and poured into his heart together with the beer. It was so bitter that his eyes flashed like broken glass. The can of beer in his hand was empty again, just like his heart. After a long time, the night wind blew, bringing with it the noise of the city and the sound of the sirens. Two bodies lay on the high platform, motionless. Suddenly, a pair of pitch-black eyes opened. His cold gaze made people shudder. She turned to look at the person beside her. His eyes were closed and his brows were tightly knitted. His entire body was emitting a strong smell of alcohol. Suzaku called him softly. "Mika Kito?" He frowned impatiently and turned his back to her. Her slender fingers slowly slid down to her calf, and she pulled out a sharp dagger from her small leather boot. She looked at his broad back and raised the dagger high. It was this man who had destroyed her freedom and her pride. He even used her beloved Director Lin to force her. If she killed him, she could regain her freedom and reunite with Director Lin. The biting cold murderous aura suddenly expanded, ready to be released. She raised her hand high and stabbed down heavily. But at the last moment, she controlled herself. She was crazy, really crazy. If she killed him, how could she escape the Yamaguchi-gumi's pursuit? How could she save Director Lin from Japan? The alcohol kicked in, and she almost did something she regretted. She put down the dagger and quietly put it back into her boot. Then, she pretended that nothing had happened and lay quietly beside him. Mika Kito suddenly turned around. His eyes were like ice, and he didn't look drunk at all. He said coldly, "Why didn't you do it?" Suzaku's back broke out in cold sweat. It turned out that this man wasn't drunk at all. He must have been pretending. He definitely didn't believe in her loyalty, so he took the opportunity to test her. "Why didn't you do it?" He stared at her coldly, as if he wanted to see through her organs. Her lips moved and she said calmly, "If I kill you, I won't be alive. Although I hate not having freedom, there are important people who are worth it for me to give up my freedom. You're only half a second away from death." His right hand moved, and only then did she see clearly that he was holding a very small pistol. If she did not stop her assassination, then his bullet would not hesitate to pierce through her heart. Her eyes darkened. "I won't be so stupid in the future." He glanced at her and sat up from the podium. "You're a good drinker." She smiled and said, "You can hold your liquor well too." "We're tied. So the bet is invalid." He stretched out his right hand and raised it in midair. She also stretched out her right hand, and the two of them gave each other a hard slap. Xia Dong came out from the back garden and returned to the living room. She simply treated the burn on her arm. Fortunately, it wasn't very serious. A servant came forward. "Young mistress, old madam has asked you to stay in the guest room for the night. I've already tidied up the guest room on the second floor. If you need anything, just call me." "Okay, I got it. Sorry to trouble you." Ahan didn't remember her, so she couldn't go back to her room to rest. Her guest room was arranged to be at the end of the second floor. Before she went back to her room, she went to Xiao Bao's room. Xiaoyi happened to be there as well. She told her about Bailey Han's situation, and the two little guys were stunned. Xiaoyi rubbed her chin and sighed. How did Daddy's memory go back 5 years? Moreover, it was before Su Yunqian left the country. Xiao Bao puffed up her cheeks and looked disgusted. Daddy actually wants to see Su Yunqian. What will he say to her? Could it be a proposal? Xiaoyi frowned. It can't be. Who would propose in the middle of the night? Xia Dong's mouth twitched. The first time Bailey Han proposed to her was in the middle of the night. Could it be that he was really going to propose to Su Yunqian? No matter what the three of them were worried about, Su Yunqian arrived as promised. Xia Dong stood at the top of the stairs and watched her walk up leisurely. She looked like a woman who had walked out of a painting in the misty Jiangnan. There was a hint of sadness in her every frown and smile, which was just enough to make people feel pity for her. She seemed to have lost some weight, and there was a hint of sadness in her eyes, which made her look even more beautiful and elegant. She was wearing a white dress, and her long hair was simply draped over her shoulders. A small part of her fair neck was revealed when she hung her head, and it had an alluring glow under the light. She walked up to Xia Dong and smiled faintly. "Congratulations." Xia Dong smiled. "Thank you." She elegantly brushed her long hair behind her ear. I'll go upstairs to see Grandma first. I'll go to Han's room later. Xiaodong's smile was still the same. Okay. Song Yunxian went upstairs. Song Yunxian did not know what old madam had said to her, but Song Yunxian came downstairs after about 10 minutes. Hearing Song Yunxuan's footsteps, Xiaodong pushed the door open and stood in the corridor to wait for her. Su Yunxian curled her lips and her smile was a little dazzling. I know where Han's room is. I don't need to trouble you to take me there. Xiaodong said faintly. I'm his wife. This is the basic courtesy to treat guests. Miss Su, please. Su Yunxian's eyes moved, and the smile on her lips gradually disappeared. Bailey Han hadn't gone to bed yet. He had changed into a formal suit and looked extremely handsome. When Xiaodong knocked on the door and entered, he was sitting on the sofa reading a book. When he looked up and saw the two of them walking in, a smile immediately surged in his eyes. Yunqian. Su Yunqian went forward and hugged him affectionately. Han, I missed you so much. Bailey Han hugged her tightly. I missed you too. Xiaodong looked down and pinched her palms hard. She gritted her teeth hard. Otherwise, she was really afraid that she wouldn't be able to control herself and would pounce on the two of them and beat them up. The two of them were intimate for a moment. Bailey Han suddenly looked up and saw that Xiaodong was still standing by the side. He frowned unhappily. Why are you still here? Get out. Su Yunqian lay in his arms. She lifted her chin slightly and looked at Xiaodong with a sneer on her lips. Xiaodong bit the tip of her tongue hard and smiled. Okay, I'll go out now. Han, you have to have a good chat with the guests. Bailey Han frowned. What did this woman mean? When Xiaodong went out, she put a small listening device in her hand into the antique vase. This was given to her by Xiao Yi. She said that with this device, she would be able to eavesdrop on what Su Yunqian and Bailey Han were talking about. The little girl automatically confessed that she had done this before. Su Yunqian leaned into Bailey Han's arms. How long had it been since he hugged her? She couldn't help but reach out and hug his waist tightly. Perhaps his memory had returned to 5 years ago. God had given her a chance to start over. Bailey Han stroked her long hair. Yunqian, why did you lose weight? Su Yunqian chuckled. If I said that I lost weight because I missed you so much that I couldn't eat or sleep, would you feel sorry for me? Silly, am I not by your side? Bailey Han hugged her even tighter. Attention, Song Shu 566. Chapter 198. Silly girl, am I not by your side? Bailey Han hugged her even tighter. Su Yunqian smiled. Han, what's wrong with you today? Why do you suddenly want to see me? Bailey Han held her shoulders and looked into her eyes. He said seriously, Yunqian, will you marry me? In Xiao Bao's room, Xiaodong and her 2 children were eavesdropping. Xiaodong angrily jumped up from the sofa and rushed out without a word. She looked like she was going to fight with someone. Xiao Bao and Xiao Yi quickly ran over and hugged her legs. Mommy, don't be rash. Mom, don't be agitated. It's useless even if you rush over now. Dad doesn't remember you. Xiaodong was about to explode. That damned bastard. He was still whispering sweet nothings to her in the morning, and now he was hugging another woman and proposing to her at night. Although his memory was messed up, it was still very infuriating. Let go of me. I'm going to rush in and tell him the truth now. Xiao Yi's pink little ears twitched. Shoo. Listen. They're talking again. Xiaodong's ears also perked up. Su Yunqian acted coquettishly. Han, when you propose, don't you have a ring? Of course I do. Bailey Han paused and said, I originally ordered a ring today, but when I woke up, the ring was gone. Su Yunqian smiled. All right, it's okay that the ring is gone. At least I know how you feel about me. You've agreed to my proposal? Of course, there's no reason not to. Let go of me. Xiaodong couldn't hold it in anymore. If she held it in, her husband would be charged with bigamy. Little Treasure and Little Wingsy let go of their hands in unison and took a step back in unison. Things had gone beyond their control. The scariest thing was that there was a suspicious sound coming from the eavesdropping device. It seemed to be a sound not suitable for children. Xia Dong opened the door and rushed to Bailey Han's room. Her entire body was steaming with anger as she barged into his room in an extremely valiant manner. The next moment, his breathing suddenly stopped. In front of him, Bailey Han and Su Yunqian were hugging each other, their faces close to each other. Her eyes burned with flames as she clenched her fists. Resisting the urge to beat them up, she roared, "Bailey Han, stop!" Bailey Han's hand froze and he raised his head. After a short moment of shock, he was furious. "Why did you come in? Get out. This is the third time you've told me to scram. Seeing that your memory is a mess, I'll tolerate you." Xia Dong glared at him angrily. She strode forward and grabbed his wrist without warning. She was startled. It turned out that he was holding a girder in his hand. So, he was actually helping Su Yunqian put on the girder? Because of the angle, it looked like they were kissing. "You crazy woman, what are you trying to do?" Bailey Han pulled his wrist back, unable to restrain his anger. Su Yunqian looked coldly at Xia Dong. Damn it, she had ruined her plans again. Xia Dong pointed at his left hand and said coldly, "Bailey Han, look at the ring on your left hand. What do you think it means? You're already married, do you know that?" Bailey Han let go of Su Yunqian in shock. His gaze fell on his left hand. He had been wondering when he had a ring on his finger. Xia Dong extended her left hand in front of him and said angrily, "Take a good look at what this is. Don't you think it's exactly the same as the one on your finger?" What's going on? Bailey Han was shocked and angry. When did he get married? Why didn't he know about it? Who was this woman in front of him? There seemed to be something in his brain that suddenly bounced and tightened. It hurt. He held his head in pain and tried hard to think, but he couldn't remember. No, it was getting more and more painful. His vision turned black and he felt dizzy. His body tilted and he fell onto the sofa. Han. Xia Dong and Su Yunqian threw themselves on him at the same time and called out to him anxiously. Xia Dong was anxious and helpless. What should she do? Yes, she should call the doctor. She suddenly jumped up and reached for the phone. Su Yunqian grabbed her wrist and stared at her with a venomous gaze. "It's all your fault, Xia Dong. If anything happens to Han, I won't let you off. Now's not the time to talk about this." Xia Dong pushed her arm away and tried hard to calm down as she dialed Suja's number. Old Madame Dowager and the others rushed over when they heard the news. Everyone was anxiously waiting for Suja's arrival. Xiao Yi secretly took out the listening device from the antique vase and hid it in her pocket. Suja carefully examined Bailey Han's body and listened to old Madame Dowager's description of his situation. He frowned and thought for a moment before saying, "Old Madame Dowager, I want to talk to you alone." "In the study," old Madame Dowager said. "Dr. Su, it's just the two of us now. If you have something to say, just say it." Suja's face was serious. "Old Madame Dowager, from Ahan's current situation, his memory has begun to become chaotic. I suspect that the hypnosis we did on him 5 years ago will soon lose its effect. When that time comes, not only will he regain his memory, but he will also suffer from the pain of his headaches again." Old Madame Dowager said agitatedly, "Then what should we do?" Suja frowned. "I can't think of any good ideas right now. However, if we want to completely cure him, we still have to do surgery to remove the foreign object in his brain." Old Madame Dowager's face was ashen. 5 years ago, the top neurologist in the country examined him and said that the foreign object in his brain was too close to his nerves. If we do surgery to remove it, the success rate is only 1%. If the surgery fails, Ahan will become a vegetable. We can't take this risk. Suja thought for a moment and said, "Perhaps we should tell Ahan about this and let him make his own choice." The choice was to suffer from the pain of his headaches or take the risk of surgery. Old Madame Dowager held her forehead and sighed. "Let me think about it carefully." Xia Dong noticed that after old Madame Dowager and Suja finished talking, she seemed to have aged a lot. She looked tired and dignified, as if she had a lot of things on her mind. Suja couldn't help with Bailey Han's current condition, so he only left some conventional medicine and left. Old Madame Dowager glanced at the room full of people and waved her hand tiredly. "You all go back and rest. Xiao Yi, Xiao Bao, you still have school tomorrow. Go back to your rooms and sleep." Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao looked at each other and then at Bailey Han lying on the bed at the same time. Yi Gai said goodnight to the elders and returned to his room. Yun Qian, I've troubled you today. You should go back first. Old Madame Dowager patted the back of Su Yunqian's hand. Su Yunqian forced a smile on her face. Her sad expression made people feel pity for her. Grandma, I'll go back first. If you need anything, you can call me at any time. Okay, good girl. Old Madame Dowager called a servant and sent Su Yunqian out. Only Old Madame Dowager and Xia Dong were left in the room. Old Madame Dowager pointed to the seat beside her. Xia Dong, sit down. I have something to tell you. Xia Dong sat down. Old Madame Dowager said, There's something I haven't told you and Ah Han. Today, I want to tell you. 5 years ago, Ah Han was in a car accident. Not only was his leg injured, but his brain was also injured. At that time, a very small piece of metal flew into his brain. Xia Dong's eyes widened in shock. The blood in her body seemed to have stopped flowing. After examination, the metal piece almost pressed on the nerves, and the surrounding nerves were very complicated. The doctor said that the success rate of removing the metal piece was only 1%. We didn't dare to take the risk, so we gave up on the surgery. Old Madame Dowager sighed and continued, We didn't expect that disaster would come. Whenever Ah Han thought of that car accident and anything related to you, he would start to have a headache. We watched as he suffered from the pain. He couldn't sleep at night and groaned. In less than half a month, he became so thin that he didn't even look human anymore. I discussed it with his father and made a decision. Old Madame Dowager paused. She looked at Xia Dong's shocked eyes and said slowly, We decided to erase his memory. We hired the best psychiatrist abroad to hypnotize him and erase his past with you. We tampered with his memory and adjusted it to the day before he proposed to Yun Qian. Then, we lied to him and said that he was in a car accident on that day. We also made up a story about Xiao Yi's birth. In short, we completely erased your existence from his memory. Xia Dong leaned against the sofa stiffly. Her chest was filled with complicated emotions. A scary thought came to her mind. She said with difficulty, Grandma, Ah Han's memory suddenly returned to 5 years ago. This isn't a good sign, right? Old Madame Dowager nodded. Su Zhe said that his memory is starting to become chaotic. The hypnosis might not last much longer. Xia Dong's voice trembled. Will he have a headache again after he recovers his memory? He was already having a headache now. It's very possible. Grandma, what do you want me to do? Ah Han can't be stimulated at the moment. Xia Dong, if Ah Han's memory is still stuck 5 years ago after he wakes up, I hope you won't tell him the truth, and don't tell him about the past. Old Madame Dowager reached out and grabbed Xia Dong's wrist. Let him go with the flow. Let him hold on for as long as he can. Tears filled Old Madame Dowager's eyes. Other than this, I can't think of any other way. Xia Dong's tears fell like rain. Grandma, I understand. No matter what happens, I won't tell him the truth. I won't force him or agitate him anymore. Even if Ah Han and Su Yunqian reconciled, even if he proposed to her, even if they wanted to get married, she wouldn't stop it because she didn't want him to suffer anymore. He had suffered enough for the past 5 years. Add, Song Shu 566. Chapter 199. Thank you, Xia Dong. You've been wronged. Old Madame's tears rolled down her cheeks. Xia Dong bit her lip and sobbed. For Xia Dong, this was a sleepless night. For Lin Shihao, this night had just begun. At a 5-star hotel. A medical seminar was being held here. As the main speaker, Lin Shihao spoke frankly and confidently on stage. His warm smile was like the sun shining into Bai Meiwei's heart as she sat in the first row. It was as if she was possessed. She was deeply infatuated with him and couldn't extricate herself. When the speech ended, the audience applauded. The organizer of this seminar was a government department. After the seminar ended, the staff warmly invited all the attendees to the banquet hall for a cocktail party. Lin Shihao could be said to be a young talent. He was also well known in the industry and was known as the god of gynecology. Many people in the industry came to toast him. His alcohol tolerance wasn't very good, so he would decline if he could, but if he really couldn't, he would stop after a sip. Even so, he still drank a lot of alcohol that night. By the end of the cocktail party, he was already drunk. He sat on the sofa and held his forehead. His eyes were blurry as he took out his phone to call Yi-Siki. However, his phone was snatched away. He narrowed his eyes and looked up. A beautiful figure stood in front of him and bent over to look at him. The person's low-cut dress revealed a deep cleavage. He closed his eyes and leaned back on the sofa. In a drunken voice he said, "Mei Wei, please take me home. I'm drunk." "Okay." Bai Mei Wei sat beside him and held the glass in her hand in front of him. "Senior, drink a glass of cold water first to sober up." He looked at her in a daze and couldn't even hold the glass steadily. She directly held his hand and held the glass to his lips to help him drink. Seeing him swallow the glass of water without leaving a single drop behind, a strange smile appeared in Bai Mei Wei's beautiful eyes. "Senior, be careful. I'll help you back," Bai Mei Wei said gently. She held his arm and helped him up from the sofa. Lin Shihao's head was getting dizzier and dizzier. He staggered and leaned all his weight on her until he completely lost consciousness and fell limply on her shoulder. A male waiter came forward and asked, "Ma'am, do you need help?" Bai Mei Wei glanced at Lin Shihao, who was lying on her shoulder, and smiled. "Sorry to trouble you. I've booked room 713. "Okay." The waiter supported Lin Shihao and helped him to the elevator. Bai Mei Wei leisurely followed behind. The waiter carried Lin Shihao into the room and placed him on the bed. Bai Mei Wei took out a tip and said with a smile, "Thank you for your hard work." The waiter smiled politely. "You're welcome, madam. Good night." "Good night." Bang! The door closed. Bai Mei Wei slowly walked to the bedside and looked down at Lin Shihao, who was in deep sleep. He had handsome features. His handsome eyebrows were relaxed, his nose was high, and his thin lips were slightly pursed. She had been obsessed with that face for a long time. She bent over, her cheeks burning as she leaned against his chest. His broad chest and the steady beating of his heart made her feel at ease. He seemed to be uncomfortable from being pressed against by her. He frowned and murmured softly, "Siki, Siki Yi-Siki." Even when he was asleep, he still remembered her. Bai Mei Wei's eyes were filled with anger. The last bit of hesitation and shyness in her heart disappeared. She wanted to have him, even if she had to resort to unscrupulous means. Walala! The hot water flowed as Bai Mei Wei carefully washed her body in the bathroom. Not a single inch of skin was left untouched. In a while, she would give herself to the man she loved the most. Her heart was thumping wildly. She didn't know that in the guest room, Lin Shihao's phone was ringing. Yi-Siki was a little uneasy. She called Lin Shihao's phone twice, but no one answered. The seminar should have ended at 9 o'clock, but it was already 10 o'clock. Why wasn't he back yet? He didn't even call back? Could something have happened to him? Yi-Siki remembered that the person who went to the seminar with Lin Shihao was Bai Mei Wei. Unfortunately, she didn't have Bai Mei Wei's phone number, so she couldn't ask her. What should she do? She paced back and forth in the room uneasily. Suddenly, she remembered that there must be Bai Mei Wei's private phone number in the on-call room, so she called the on-call room. She gave a simple explanation, and the people in the on-call room gave her Bai Mei Wei's private phone number. Beep, beep, beep. She called Bai Mei Wei's phone twice, but no one answered. Yi-Siki didn't give up and called a third time. Finally, the phone was picked up. She heard a woman's languid voice. "Hello, who is this?" "Hello, is this Dr. Bai Mei Wei?" "That's me." "Who are you?" Bai Mei Wei asked as she dried her hair. Yi-Siki paused and said, "My name is Yi-Siki. I'm Lin Shihao's wife. I want to ask if the seminar you attended tonight has ended?" Bai Mei Wei's fingers tightened. After a while, she laughed softly. "So it's Senior's wife. The seminar has ended. Is there something you need? Old Lin hasn't come back yet, and I can't get through to his phone. I'm worried that something has happened to him. Dr. Bai, do you know his situation?" Bai Mei Wei glanced at Lin Shihao, who was sleeping soundly on the bed. Her lips curled into a strange smile as she said lightly, "I'm with Senior. Don't worry, nothing happened to him." Yi-Siki's anxious heart relaxed. "That's good. Are you on the way back now?" Bai Mei Wei smiled. Yes, we're in the car. Senior said that he would send me home first. Sister-in-law, I'm sorry to have made you worry. It's okay. It's only right that old Lin send you home. Although the two of them hadn't picked up the phone for a long time, which made Yisiki feel a little strange, she didn't think too much about it. She smiled and said, "Doctor, bye." But before she could calm down, the part of him that was inside her body rose up again, and another round of passion began. The next morning, the glaring sunlight shone through the window. Lin Shihao frowned impatiently. He turned over and reached out to hug the person beside him. After sleeping for a few more minutes, his head slowly cleared up. He held his forehead with one hand and muttered softly, "Honey, my head hurts." The response he got was a soft sob. Lin Shihao suddenly opened his eyes. He saw a woman's naked back. Her fair skin was covered with bruises. She was curled up into a ball and sobbing softly. Her shoulders were trembling slightly. His eyes widened in shock. She wasn't his wife. Who was she? He reached out his trembling hand and slowly pulled her shoulders back. His heart suddenly fell to the bottom of the valley. He cried out involuntarily, "Mei Wei!" Bai Mei Wei's cheeks were covered with tear stains. Her eyes were red and swollen, and even her lips were red and swollen. Her chest and neck were full of marks from lovemaking. She covered her face and cried sadly, "Senior, how did this happen? How did we end up together?" Lin Shihao's face was ashen. He was about to break down. He betrayed Siki. He actually betrayed his wife. "Senior, you were drunk last night. I drank too much too and couldn't drive. I wanted to help you in to rest for a while, but I didn't expect you." "You." Bai Mei Wei's tears kept falling. She cried until she was out of breath. Lin Shihao tried hard to remember, but his mind was blank. He had no idea what happened last night. His usually gentle face revealed a panicked expression. He jumped out of bed in a panic, found his clothes in a pile of messy clothes, and hurriedly put them on. "Come and see." Hongcha 866. Chapter 200. Siki must have been worried to death that he hadn't returned the entire night. It was as if he had gone mad. There was only one thing left in his mind, and that was to go home. He had to go home quickly. Lin Shihao grabbed his things and hurriedly ran out. Bai Mei Wei jumped down from the bed and hugged him tightly. She was sobbing. "Senior, you can't leave like this. What should I do?" Lin Shihao's fiery heart cooled down in an instant. He turned his head stiffly and looked at Bai Mei Wei. Her eyes were red and swollen like peaches, and they were filled with tears. Her frail body was covered with marks, constantly reminding him of what had happened last night. He was like a stone statue, instantly losing his life force. "Senior, senior." Bai Mei Wei threw herself into his arms, crying bitterly. He was like a walking corpse, allowing her to hug and shake him. After a long, long time, his consciousness gradually returned. His gaze was unfocused as it swept across the messy bed. There were still bright red marks on the sheets. He slowly closed his eyes, then slowly opened them again. With difficulty he said, "Mei Wei, I'm sorry. I hurt you." Bai Mei Wei hugged him tightly, sobbing. Her crying made his heart hurt and confused. He helplessly patted her back. "Mei Wei, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry." "Senior. Senior." Bai Mei Wei cried for a long time before she finally raised her head. She choked out, I don't blame you. Let's just pretend that nothing happened." Lin Shihao felt extremely guilty. "Mei Wei, thank you." She shook her head as tears streamed down her face. "Senior, I don't want to ruin your relationship with sister-in-law. I'm satisfied as long as you're happy. Let me be by your side, silently waiting for you." Lin Shihao was both touched and guilty. He hugged her tightly. Bai Mei Wei wiped the tears from her face. "Senior, if sister-in-law asks, just say that you were drunk last night and rested at my house for the whole night. Don't worry, if sister-in-law asks, I'll help you." "Thank you, Mei Wei." Lin Shihao's throat moved, his voice low and hoarse. After Lin Shihao and Bai Mei Wei tidied up, they walked out of the hotel one after another. He sat in the car and took out his phone. He didn't know when, but his phone had been turned off. He turned it on and saw many missed calls from Siki, as well as text messages from her. Her concern for him were evident in every message she sent him. His heart suddenly ached, and he punched the steering wheel hard. 2 drops of tears fell from the 1.8-meter-tall man's eyes. As soon as Lin Shihao inserted the key into the keyhole, Yi Siki jumped down from the sofa. The moment he turned the doorknob, the door suddenly opened from the inside. "Hubby, where did you go? I called you, but you didn't pick up. I was so worried." Yi Siki threw herself into Lin Shihao's arms. Her eyes were red, and it was obvious that she hadn't slept all night. Lin Shihao hugged her tightly and said over and over again, "I'm sorry, wifey, I'm sorry." "Hubby, where did you go? Did something happen?" Yi Siki withdrew from his arms and checked carefully. Seeing that he wasn't hurt, she relaxed a little. Lin Shihao forced a smile and hesitated for a long time before telling the lie he had made up. "I'm sorry, wifey. I got drunk last night and rested at Director Bai's house for the whole night." Yi Siki complained, "Why didn't you call me? I was about to call the police, you know?" "I'm sorry, wifey, I'm sorry. I fell asleep after getting in the car last night. I don't even know how I ended up at the director's house." He hugged her tightly, his heart filled with guilt. The two of them hugged for a long time before he whispered, "Wifey, I'm very tired. I want to take a shower." Yi Siki patted his back and said gently, "Okay, I'll go turn on the hot water for you." Lin Shihao sat on the sofa dejectedly. He held his head in his hands and listened to the sound of the hot water running in the bathroom. His heart was in a mess. Guilt wrapped around him tightly, and he almost couldn't breathe. "Hubby, I'm done. I've put the clothes on the rack. Go in quickly." He took a deep breath and looked up slowly. He smiled gently and said, "Okay." Xiaodong suddenly woke up. Her dark eyes were filled with fear, and her forehead was covered with sweat. She hurriedly put on her slippers and ran down the corridor in a panic towards Bailey Han's room. She had a nightmare. She dreamed of a grand wedding. She was wearing a beautiful wedding dress and holding flowers in her hands, waiting for the groom to hold her hand. However, after waiting for a long time, Bailey Han held Su Yunqian's arm and walked slowly to the priest. They looked at each other affectionately, as if she didn't exist. She couldn't take it lying down. She pounced forward and called out Bailey Han's name. Bailey Han turned around to look at her. He suddenly held his head and howled in pain. Soon, he fell to the ground and didn't move anymore. No, she wouldn't let this happen. She wouldn't. Xiaodong suddenly opened the door. Bailey Han's handsome figure was standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window. His back was facing the window, and when he heard the sound, he suddenly turned around. She stared at him blankly. She wanted to call out to him, but she resisted. No, she had to pretend that she didn't know him. Bailey Han's handsome face was expressionless. He walked towards her step by step, staring at her with his deep eyes. Xiaodong bit her lip and forced a smile. She stammered, "Why, eldest young master? You're awake." Bailey Han's face darkened. She explained in a panic, "Eldest young master, don't be angry. Old madam asked me to check if you've woken up. It's good that you've woken up. I'll leave now." She turned around to leave, in case he was unhappy to see her here. However, her wrist suddenly tightened and she was pulled into his embrace. She stiffened in his embrace, not daring to speak or move for fear of agitating him. Bailey Han lowered his head to look at the stiffened woman in his arms. His face darkened even more. He frowned and his voice was cold and filled with anger. "Are you that afraid of me?" Xiaodong lowered her eyes and stared at his toes. She said softly, "No." "Then why did you run away when you saw me?" Her throat tightened. "You didn't want to see me." His brows furrowed and his eyes were cold. "When did I say that I didn't want to see you?" She felt wronged. Yesterday. Within a day, he had asked her to get lost twice. Bailey Han's frown deepened. He felt uncomfortable looking at the top of her head. He reached out and lifted her chin, forcing her to look into his eyes. "You haven't explained why Mika Kito kissed you. How could I not want to see you?" When he woke up and she wasn't by his side, his first thought was that she had left with Mika Kito. But he refused to give up, so he stood in front of the window, wanting to see if she was outside. At this moment, she suddenly pushed open the door and entered. Ecstasy surged into her heart, and before he could ask her to explain, she impatiently said a bunch of strange things. Xia Dong looked at him in shock. You know my Bailey Han? Bailey Han was so angry that he almost laughed. What did she mean by knowing her Bailey Han? Wait a minute. His pupils suddenly shrank. Wifey, what do you mean by that? Xia Dong had already confirmed that the person standing in front of her was the Bailey Han with normal memories. She quickly shook her head. No, I didn't mean anything. Hubby, I'll explain now. Yesterday, Brother Shen asked me to go out. I was afraid that it would cause a misunderstanding, so I didn't tell anyone and went out to see him alone. Xia Dong was afraid that there would be a rift between them because of what happened yesterday, so she didn't hide anything and told him everything, including how Mika Kito had forced a kiss on her. Bailey Han felt a little better knowing that she hadn't been willing to be kissed. However, his brows were still furrowed. He stroked her red lips with his fingers and said domineeringly, "I'm the only one who can kiss you here." She hesitated for a moment, then stood on her tiptoes and gently kissed him on the lips. His anger suddenly dissipated, and an unnatural color appeared on his face. This was the first time she had taken the initiative to kiss him. He hugged her tightly. The moment she pulled away, he kissed her lips. As if he was punishing her, he gently bit and sucked on her lips. Xia Dong quietly leaned into his arms. She suddenly felt that this was the happiness she had been pursuing. However, this happiness was very fragile. It was like a soap bubble that only needed to be gently poked with a finger and it would burst with a bang. However, even if it was fragile, she didn't want to let go. She tightly hugged his waist and boldly expressed her feelings. Hubby, I love you. Ecstasy sprayed in Bailey Han's heart like a fountain. He had always been calm and collected, but his fingers were trembling. He hugged her tightly and said in a hoarse voice, "Wifey, I love you too." Xia Dong's eyes were sore. There was a transparent liquid flowing down, but Bailey Han didn't see it. Bailey Han had woken up. The whole family was prepared to treat him like a porcelain doll, but they didn't expect that his memory would suddenly return to normal. Under the old madam's strict order, no one mentioned yesterday's incident. Bailey Han also didn't know that his memory had returned to 5 years ago. On the surface, everything had returned to normal. Only a few people who knew the inside story had a heavy heart. It turned out that Bailey Han's memory was already unstable, and the hypnosis couldn't last much longer. Xia Dong helped him tie his tie and stood at the gate, watching him drive to the company. She only looked away when the car drove out of the manor and couldn't be seen anymore. She didn't know when Bailey Jing had appeared beside her. "Xia Dong, I want to talk to you." Xia Dong turned around and smiled. "Okay, but I have to take the children to kindergarten first." Bailey Jing also smiled. "I'll go out with you. I happen to have something to do too." Xiao Bao was wearing a small suit and carrying a small school bag. He ran down the stairs. Behind him, Xiaoyi walked leisurely with her chest out and head raised. "Mom, we're ready. Let's go." Xiao Bao ran to their side and only greeted Xia Dong. He ignored Bailey Jing. Obviously, he was still angry about Bailey Jing speaking rudely to his mother yesterday. Come and see. Xinwu 799. Chapter 201. Bailey E, who walked over, was much more polite and called her Aunt Jing sweetly. Xia Dong smiled and said, "Since you're ready, let's go." Bailey Jing accompanied Xia Dong to send the two kids to the kindergarten. After that, Bailey Jing said, "How about we go to the cafe?" Xia Dong knew that she had something to say, so she naturally agreed. The cafe's environment was very elegant. Since it was still early, there were very few people inside, so it was just right for them to talk. Xia Dong stirred the fragrant milk tea in her cup. "Xiao Jing, what do you want to know? Just ask." Bailey Jing raised her eyebrows and went straight to the point. "Xingchen's disfigurement, was it because of you?" Xia Dong was very surprised. She thought that she was going to ask about her and her brother, but she didn't expect her to ask about this. She thought for a moment and said, "Strictly speaking, it was related to me, but I didn't cause her disfigurement." "Tell me about it." Bailey Jing leaned back and listened carefully. "It's very complicated. To put it simply, Su Xingchen wanted to harm me, but it was exposed and my friend took revenge on her. She then turned around to take revenge on me and wanted to pour acid on me. In the end, an accident happened during the fight and the acid splashed on her. Bailey Jing frowned and asked, "Was Su Yunqian present at that time?" Xia Dong nodded. "Yes." Bailey Jing's gaze was sharp. "As far as I know, Xingchen didn't hurt you. She was framed by Su Yunqian. She didn't want to take revenge on you that day, but wanted to deal with Su Yunqian. In the end, you snatched the acid from her hand and splashed it on her." Xia Dong was stunned. "I don't know if Su Xingchen was framed by Su Yunqian, but she did want to deal with me and Su Yunqian that day. I didn't snatch the acid from her hand, nor did I deliberately splash it on her. In fact, if my bodyguard didn't arrive in time that day and fought with Su Xingchen, I would be the one disfigured now." Bailey Jing frowned. Xia Dong and Fei Yan's words were completely different. Between the two of them, one of them must be lying. Although personally, she believed Fei Yan's words more, she didn't lose her mind. If she didn't investigate this matter clearly, she wouldn't accuse anyone wrongly. Bailey Jing's expression was serious. "Xia Dong, do you have evidence to prove that you're not lying?" Xia Dong frowned slightly. Suddenly, her eyes lit up. "When it happened, we were in the changing room behind the church. There was a camera installed in the corridor outside the changing room. When Lu Xing broke in, the door was opened. He and Su Xingchen were entangled at the door, so the camera recorded the situation. This was also an important piece of evidence for the police to convict Su Xingchen of intentional injury. As long as you see the video, you'll know if I'm lying or not. But criminal evidence is kept by the Public Security Department. How can we see the video?" Bailey Jing thought. Xia Dong coughed and said, "Actually, the surveillance camera in the church should still have a record." Bailey Jing patted her forehead and smiled. "How could I forget? This is much easier. Xiao Yi is a hacker expert." Xia Dong was surprised. She never knew that Xiao Yi was also a hacker. Bailey Jing raised her eyebrows in amusement. "Don't tell me you still don't know?" Xia Dong smiled bitterly. "I really don't know. I've been separated from Xiao Yi for more than 4 years. I feel like I don't understand him at all. I'm a failure of a mother." "No, I think you're amazing." Bailey Jing looked into her eyes and said seriously, "I admire you for raising 2 children alone." Xia Dong smiled. "I thought you hated me." Bailey Jing shrugged. "At first, I hated you. But after hearing about your experience, I think you're amazing. You're a good mother." Her straightforward words touched Xia Dong. "Thank you." She smiled and said, "Don't be in a hurry to thank me. If it turns out that you really hurt my friends, I'll still hate you." Xia Dong smiled. She really appreciated Bailey Jing's personality more and more. She was straightforward and cheerful. The two agreed to ask Xiao Yi to help pull up the surveillance video of the church at night. Then they parted happily. Bailey Jing left the family car to Xia Dong and rented it herself. She took out a business card from her handbag and pointed to the address on it. She asked the taxi driver to send her to the location. Xia Dong hadn't seen Yi Siki for a few days. She missed her, so she wanted to ask her out to relax. Guangmao Building. Lang Yu Psychological Consulting Firm. Seeing someone coming, the beautiful receptionist Miss smiled politely. "Hello, Mississippi. How can I help you?" Bailey Jing took off her sunglasses and pushed her hair behind her ear. "Hello, I want to see Dr. Lin Yi. Do you have an appointment?" "No." Miss smiled apologetically. "I'm very sorry. Dr. Lin's appointments are full today." Bailey Jing's lips curled up, revealing a dazzling smile. "I only need to delay him for 5 minutes. Please help me arrange it." "I'm really sorry. I can't help you." Bailey Jing raised her eyebrows. "Okay, I'll talk to him myself." She walked to the lounge and sat down. She took out her phone and dialed the number on the business card. After 3 rings, the phone was picked up. A man's gentle and magnetic voice came through. "Hello, I'm Lin Yi." She smiled. "Hello, I'm Bailey Jing. I want to take 5 minutes of your time. How is Dr. Lin?" Lin Yi glanced at the counselor sitting on the sofa. "I'm not free now. If you don't mind, you can wait for half an hour. Okay, I'll wait for half an hour. I won't disturb your work. See you later. See you later. Lin Yi curled his lips and hung up the phone. Bailey Jing sat in the lounge, playing a game on her phone. She was having a good time when she heard the door to Lin Yi's office open. A beautiful 17 or 18-year-old girl walked out. Her face was abnormally pale and her lips lacked color, but there was a faint smile on her face. She looked straight ahead as she walked towards the elevator. The moment she raised her hand to press the elevator button, Bailey Jing noticed that there were several scars on her wrist. Bailey Jing blinked and stood up. She turned around and saw Lin Yi in a black suit standing a few steps away from her. There was a gentle smile on his handsome face. Sorry to keep you waiting. She smiled generously. It's okay. It wasn't long. She was wearing a bohemian-style long dress today. Her wine-red hair was let down casually. Her beautiful eyes sparkled with a bright smile. She looked bright and charming. He reached out his hand. Please come in. Thank you. The office was decorated very warmly. It didn't feel rigid at all. Lin Yi lowered his guard the moment he walked in. Bailey Jing sat casually on the sofa and pulled out a check from her handbag. She pushed it in front of Lin Yi. Lin Yi, thank you for helping me out yesterday. Here's the money for the dress. Please accept it. Lin Yi had a rough understanding of her personality from their two conversations. He knew that she was a straightforward person. He didn't reject her. He smiled. It's nothing. Don't worry about it. Bailey miss, if I may ask, do you have an older brother named Bailey Yun? She raised an eyebrow in surprise. How did you know? He's my second brother. Lin Yi's smile widened. I'm in the same university as Yun. I'm 2 grades higher than him. She was pleasantly surprised. So you're my second brother senior. What a coincidence. He smiled. Yun went to America recently. How's he doing there? He hasn't contacted me yet. She smiled happily, revealing her beautiful white teeth. I talked to him on the phone before I came back. He's doing well now. He started a company with his friends. It's on the right track. That's good. He's finally willing to work hard. Lin Yi hoped that Bailey Yun could walk out of the pain of heartbreak as soon as possible. The two of them chatted for a while more before Bailey Jing suddenly remembered the girl she saw earlier. She asked curiously, that patient of yours, I saw a scar on her wrist. Does she have symptoms of depression? The scar is also a sign of self-harm, isn't it? Lin Yi smiled apologetically. I'm sorry. I can't reveal anything about the patient. It was his professional ethics as a psychiatrist. Bailey Jing waved her hand embarrassedly. It's okay. I'm just too curious. She looked down at her watch. It seems like 5 minutes have passed. I won't disturb your work anymore. Goodbye. Okay. Let's talk when we have time. It was nice meeting you. She smiled and shook his hand. Me too. He walked her to the door and saw her walking towards the stairs. He reminded her, the elevator is over there. She smiled and waved. I'll take the stairs. What a special girl. After all, this was the 12th floor. There was a smile on his lips as he watched her beautiful figure disappear into the corridor. He pondered for 2 seconds, then walked to the front desk and asked, Did that lady just come up the stairs? Lin Yi's eyes darkened when he heard the affirmative answer. It was understandable for her to take the stairs downstairs, but it seemed a little strange for her to take the stairs up to the 12th floor. He thought about it again. Maybe she wanted to train her body. He shook his head in amusement. Maybe it was because she was Yun's sister. That was why he paid so much attention to her. Asterisk on the bench in Central Park, Xia Dong was about to fall asleep from boredom when Yi Siki rushed over. Xia Dong rolled her eyes. Yezi, you stood me up for an hour. An hour. Do you know how precious an hour's time is? Yi Siki put her hands together. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Old Lin is home today, so I made lunch for him before coming out. Awesome novel. Hong Cha 866. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.